live look at Sarasota County. This is Bee Ridge Road, just beneath I-75, where our ABC7 photographer, Larry Phillips, he is stationed right there. You can see on your screen, we've got some wind, we've got some rain heading there. If you just take a look at the water hitting the roadway, it's kind of a key indicator into how fast this wind is moving. Now, he is safely stationed under there. If you look really far into the distance there, you can see those traffic lights just swaying back and forth in the screen there. Yeah, we're going to take a little bit of a closer look. Let's see if we can get that. Oh, wow, there we go. We're zooming in a little bit closer. You can see the traffic lights are just swaying in the wind. No cars on the roadway. There is one in the distance. I see some headlights there on the screen, but I mean, it's just not safe to be on the roads. And you know that. We've been warning you about that all morning long. As you can see, it's getting increasingly dangerous to head on the roadways. This, once again, if you're just joining this is near Bee Ridge Road and I-75, just under the overpass there in Sarasota County, shot by our photojournalist, Larry Phillips. And we're just giving you a live look there. As you can see, a car just making its way into the shot
Hopefully home.
Yes.
Hopefully home. And just so you know, we will be pulling our crews off the roads as soon as Sarasota County pulls law enforcement off the roads as well. We obviously will not be in harm's way either. I'll be honest, I'm a little surprised. We're still waiting to hear that. And I'll be honest, I think one of the reasons is they really want to get everybody evacuated, and they're still working to get people put into the shelters in zones A and B. But we are all recommending, it is now stated in Manatee and Charlotte counties, shelter in place. Right. We're waiting for the official word from Sarasota County. And honestly, as soon as we get it, that'll be the end of our live crews out there as well. We're being very, very conservative for safety reasons, of course. We want you to do the same. Let's check in with John. I believe he is standing by ready with some information about what's coming next. John?
Well, we've got the new track from the Hurricane Center, and the good news is it has not strengthened. It has the same basic information. It's moving to the north-northeast a little bit slower. At 9, it has the wind speed still at 155, making it a solid Category 4 storm. Sampled again with those wind speeds in one of the quadrants. And central pressure that remains the same as well. So it doesn't look like it will get stronger with the central pressure remaining kind of consistent and flat. 155 mile an hour, 190 mile per hour wind gusts as this storm system makes it onshore, probably around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's just offshore right now, the core of the strongest winds just offshore. Even though it's brushing up against Sanibel and Gasparilla, it still has not gotten those strongest winds close to the coast. We're looking at Thursday by 2 a.m., it becoming a Category 1 storm, just leaving areas of Hardee and DeSoto counties, inland locations. So it's going to take a good 12 hours to cross the Sun Coast. A lot of time for the wind speeds to be around. A lot of trees will be coming down. A lot of power outages will be occurring. As the system moves onshore, it's going to kind of rapidly lose intensity as it interacts with the land, as it pulls in some drier air. All of that will also help it to expand its wind field. Think of an ice skater who holds their arms in close to their bodies. They twirl real fast, but when their arms flow outwards, then they slow down, but their wind speed expands, so to speak. And that's kind of exactly what's going to happen with this system as it begins to move onshore. Right now, areas of Boca Grande about to get hit hard by that one little line of showers. This all getting very close to Rotunda and to Inglewood, helping to produce there some pretty strong wind gusts, I should imagine, over the course of the hour ahead. I will say that the eye of this system looks like it might be in the process of trying to get its act together again and kind of reform as these thunderstorms kind of swing around the bottom side. What you want to see in a really strong system is all of these thunderstorms kind of aligned all the way around it. Right now, it's got a weaker quadrant over here in the eastern section of it, southeast, and also the northeast quadrant. It's got a reduced thunderstorm, probably because we're getting some drier air coming in off the coastline that's pulled into the circulation around the eye, helping to reduce the number of thunderstorms in progress there. But as this whole system lifts northward, we'll be monitoring it very carefully as it gets close to Inglewood. You're already getting some very heavy rainfall there, no doubt. You're about to get a lot stronger winds, I think, as this whole system gets closer. I'm just wondering what kind of damage might be getting done here right along these little islands where all of that water is beginning to wash on shore, no doubt. If you live in this area and you're still in that location, please send us some pictures if you safely can. Shoot them with your cell phone, send them to mysuncoast.com, click on the share it button and drop them right in there. Or email them to the station. As the system starts to lift northward, I think we might see a little bit more of this kind of wrapping around and keeping the intensity still strong. But one thing we are seeing is that since it hasn't kind of moved to the east, it looks like it's moving a little bit to the north. What we're going to see is this area of flow around the underbelly of the storm lifting up and pulling in all that water into Charlotte Harbor. That's what's going to make all of the storm surge inundation rise to some pretty high levels, I think. The storm system itself now showing some big thunderstorm turrets on the southwestern quadrant. We didn't have that before. It was mostly only on the northeastern quadrant. So all of these big thunderstorms are starting to twirl around the center of the storm, releasing their heat. That's what they do. It works like a big bonfire, if you will. The warm, moist air at the surface is the fuel for the fire rushing into the center. It then ignites into these thunderstorms which climb, release their heat, and then all of the exhaust goes up the chimney, so to speak, and that's what those kind of spiral bands are that we see from the satellite presentations. Calm in the center of the storm, that's what you will experience once that moves over land, and we expect that to occur a little bit later this afternoon. Wind speed forecasts for the storm system will start to increasingly come out of the southeast and eventually southwest, up to maybe 102 miles per hour right along the Inglewood coastline is the forecast wind gust speeds, staying in the 100-mile-an-hour range probably till about 3 or 4 o'clock with those strong wind gusts coming in. The storm system moving in toward Arcadia as the wind speeds kind of reduce a little bit as the system weakens down to a tropical storm force strength system, and then lifting northward through Wauchula, producing power outages there undoubtedly, and also downing trees. We saw a lot of that during Charlie. Lots of trees coming down, hopefully none of them on houses. That certainly will do damage and has destroyed a lot of the houses out there because of that. And then the wind speeds dropping down to tropical storm force or below as the whole system leaves. Power outage index shows increasing chances of widespread power outages as we go through the morning and into the afternoon. I think we're likely to see around 1, 2 o'clock an uptick in the amount of power outage because of that storm system moving onshore finally. And then as the storm system weakens, you'll see fewer power outages occurring, but nobody's going to be getting their power back until we can see the wind speeds coming down to where it's safe for the crews to work. So it could definitely be several days. In some cases, it may be longer than that. It may be a week or more before everything quiets down. Just a reminder about safe rooms. I want you to find that room in your home if you live in the path of the core of this storm, where you'll be safe in the event that it moves right over you. Avoid windows and doors, outside walls. Stay in interior sections of your home, stairwells or hallways. Bathrooms are good because of all the plumbing that goes through the bathrooms, helping to reinforce the walls. Those are good locations. Cover yourself with a blanket or a mattress is even better. That's helped a lot of people avoid injuries in these situations through other hurricanes. And don't be afraid to get a bike helmet or perhaps even a pot or a pan or anything metal that you can put around your head in the event that your structure is compromised. Safe place is the lowest level if you're not in an area that is threatened by flood. Obviously, you don't want to go to a low level. If you're threatened by flood, you may have to seek shelter in a second-story location. All in all, we'll be watching the storm surge increasing as we go through the next few hours as that water is piled up in Charlotte Harbor. Again, for those who don't know what a storm surge is the wind-blown water that's pulled in. Used to be thought that it was caused by the central pressure of the storm kind of sucking up water like a vacuum cleaner, but it's just wind-blown water. And it comes slowly rising. It's not a wall of water like a tsunami. It's a slowly rising water level that eventually inundates homes and such. What does the damage are the battering waves that ride on top of that water, kind of giving you a buffeting sort of situation. That kind of vibration of your structure is what causes it to eventually fail. Water level increasing. We talk about inundation now. Inundation is a measure of how much water there is above your toes, basically, above ground level. And that can be anywhere from 6 feet, really all the way up in our case to as much as 16 feet above ground level is what we might see in some locations. So the storm surge flooding locally looks like this. The inundation levels along the Manatee River will probably be in the vicinity of about a foot or so not too bad there. But you can have isolated locations where it's even higher than that, up to about 3 feet around, say, Bayshore Gardens. Around the mouth of Charlotte Harbor, that's where we could see the worst of it, is that storm system just spins out there. What has it been, like 2 hours that it's just spinning right offshore ever so slowly at 9 miles an hour, I think it is, lifting northward. That's helping to funnel all that moisture in. Plus, localized rainfall rates coming down 5, 6, 7 inches per hour, accumulating over the course of several hours, all trying to drain out into these rivers and tributaries, kind of butt right up against the rising water levels caused by the wind-driven waves. So all of that together gives you these inundation levels that could be well above the 9-foot mark along parts of Punta Gorda and Charlotte Harbor and areas up the creek near Warm Mineral Springs and Northport. Although most of Northport you'll be fine, I think right along the river levels that's where the problem is going to lie, and then upstream as well of Peace River. Down here we'll be looking at possibly some inundation levels rising just a little bit right along the coastline. That's a possibility in Inglewood and maybe even Point of Rocks might see that. We've had a lot of rainfall already. Some of the rainfall rates coming in to bring these totals up to about 7 inches in some locations, particularly down here around Inglewood and points north of that through Warm Mineral Springs. You're seeing some very, very high precipitation levels. Here are some of the wind speeds that we've got going on. At Sarasota Airport, 55-mile-per-hour gusts with a temperature that's not climbing much above 72 because of all the wind and the rain. Pretty impressive at this time of year to have those kinds of temperature readings. Northeast wind sustained at about 30 right now in Venice. We have slightly higher wind speeds coming in at about 45 under a northeast wind, gusts up to 61. And in Punta Gorda, 30, let's go back to that. In Punta Gorda, a 58-mile-per-hour wind gust with sustained winds coming in at about 40 easterly flow there. And in Fort Myers, 54-mile-an-hour wind gusts with a southeast wind at about 31. Rainfall estimates will be the other thing. That's going to create some flooding down the road, particularly in our rivers and streams. I showed you some of those stream flow rates where already we've seen places like the Manatee River go from 75 cubic feet per second stream flowing down through that river up to over 700 in just the space of 24 hours. Lots of additional rainfall possible. The center of the storm itself getting pretty close to the land now, probably still a couple hours away, maybe 2-3 hours away before actually the center of it crosses over the land. We still have these tornado watch boxes up, but so far I'm not seeing anything here on radar that's causing me too much in the way of concern in terms of any kind of these storms approaching any severe limits. I mean, looking at the velocity estimates here, there's no couplets being shown. We're not seeing anything that suggests that we could be getting any issues. So all that is a very good thing. The storm itself still has a radius of about 30 miles in the eye wall. The tropical storm force winds extend outward about 100 miles. Almost everybody getting at least tropical storm force gusts at this time. And the heavy rainfall continues across the Sun Coast. And that, I think, will end up being one of the big problems. So all in all, some pretty heavy weather that we're going to have to deal with for about 12 hours or so. Let's jump back now to the anchor desk and see if there's additional information there.
All right, thank you very much, John. You are doing an amazing job. John just spent a lot of time talking about the water that is going to flow inland. I just found on the Facebook page from the Northport Police Department, if you live in the Woodland Estates or the Northport Estates or anywhere along the Myakkahatchee Creek or south of 41, you will see historic flooding. This is from Northport Police. Now, as of right this moment, and I am checking obsessively, Sarasota County shelters are still open. The Northport Police Department wants you to seek shelter if you are anywhere near a body of water. This says basically if you live on a canal, you will see major impacts. First responders will not be able to reach you until the storm passes. They are expecting that to be noon today when they stop allowing people at shelters and stop sending crews out on the streets. I want to remind everybody that in Northport, Atwater Elementary, Woodland Middle School, Northport High School, and Heron Creek Middle School are all open and available. There are room in all of these shelters. Pets are welcome in all of these shelters. So please seek shelter if you are anywhere near these bodies of water, or if you are in a mobile or manufactured home. These winds are that serious. There is also an available shelter at Taylor Ranch Elementary in Venice. I know a lot of the South Venice area is also Zone A and along bodies of water. The police are asking you to seek shelter now. You've got about 30 minutes, and they will then be shutting down.
Right, and just to reiterate that as well, when we hear about these mandatory evacuations and also these shelter-in-place orders from either county, you're probably wondering, what does that mean for me? It's not just close the door and sit in your living room. This is something you're supposed to get away from the windows, clear out, go to a safe point in your home where there are no windows. Treat this, as a tornado. We heard this from Governor Ron DeSantis just hours ago. You want to treat this like you are dealing with tornado conditions, because over your home it is very unsafe. So, when you hear shelter in place, that's not just sit in your living room watching TV. You want to make sure that you are in an area that has no windows, no doors to the outside. So with that, we're going to switch gears now. Let's take a live look at Sarasota County at Palm Plaza near Bee Ridge and McIntosh. That's where our photographer, Larry Phillips, he's been working hard for us all morning. He is there live. As you look at your screen, we're seeing all these trees and wind just moving, providing visuals into what conditions are like out there. There are a few drivers on the roadways as we speak, but it's really ill-advised at this point. There are extremely, extremely dangerous high winds on the roads, branches swaying back and forth. If you're just joining us, we're taking a look at Sarasota County, where our photographer, Larry Phillips, is right now providing us this live footage. And as you can see, high winds, lots of water kind of whipping across your screen there. If you take a look at the pavement, you can see the wind and some shrubs kind of blowing across on your screen. So if you are headed on the roadways, hopefully you're headed home, because at this point, or you're headed to an evacuation shelter.
Exactly.
Right now it is really just not a safe situation at all.
No, we want everybody to get where they're going very quickly and then shelter in place. The winds are doing some very interesting things. Also caught on camera are some pictures that were captured by Bradenton Police Department. They've been out watching the roads, watching the waters, and also watching the waters recede. This is the Manatee River, where water literally has been sucked out of the river. John has been talking about how this has to do with the circulation of the storm, and the side of it that we are on right now is causing that water with the river literally to be sucked out. I guess that would be into the bay, and then at some point it is going to turn right back around and obviously probably quite forcefully be returned to the river. So we are, it's always very interesting to watch the meteorology that happens behind these storms, but we'll be watching it safely from images that the police were able to provide us, and not go out and look at it yourself. We do want to reiterate that there's stuff trending, I know, on social media of the Naples Pier with the water rising there. That pier likely may not be standing if it continues to rise in the next few hours, but we don't want people to go look at those things. Let the law enforcement take pictures. We will share them with you. And again, we're not going to get a lot more views outside other than some live traffic cameras that are stationary over the next few hours, because we don't want anybody out there.
Right. And, you know, we're also seeing more images come down from Bradenton Police, and we're seeing all of that causeway footage. Do we have that in just a moment, producers? Can we see that photo? Okay, looks like we're going to get to that visual in just a moment. All right, we're taking a look at Key West. Firefighters there are battling this fire. This all happened early this morning from WPLG. As you can see, massive flames erupting from the roof of the building, completely destroying that. It's providing a picture to what these first responders have to deal with in these severe storm conditions. As you can see them just battling the flames there. Oh my goodness, take a look at this home. It appears to be a total loss as firefighters during this storm battling flames at that property there. And this fire broke out at 3201 Flagler Avenue. This is actually just in the Key West area, if you are familiar. Some onlookers there watching as first responders, firefighters try to put out those flames. If you're just joining us, this is an image out of Key West from earlier this morning. This is not live. This was pre-recorded earlier today, and we're seeing more damages. This looks like more Key West footage as those firefighters were there earlier in the day. We are seeing flooding in Key West. That area is so susceptible to that. This was a structure fire that happened earlier this morning as the storm started to approach the Key West area. These firefighters here were battling those flames for hours in Key West as this entire building just was engulfed in flames. Those rains really not helping put out that fire, as you can see. Certainly made for a messy situation in the Keys.
Yeah, we're starting to see some of the pictures now coming in after the Ian has, you know, gone around the Keys and over the Keys, and some of the flooding is really going to be, unfortunately, quite extensive. So just a kind of an indication for how much rain we are really going to be seeing from this storm. John's been talking about rain totals possibly upwards of 15, 18, 20 inches possible in some locations. So even though I know many of our rain gauges are getting very full already this morning, really based on what the storm has done and what it's going to do, we are really just getting started.
And it looks like we do have those images, Stephanie, from Bradenton Police. We're going to switch over now and change gears. Here's the causeway. Take a look at this. This was taken by the Bradenton Police Department. As you can see, waves moving. This is just from a few hours ago. Bradenton Police Department taking this video for us, graciously staying safe, of course, providing us these images of the causeway. As you can see, certainly was a little bit calmer this morning, but we know those waters are expected to start to get even worse as these windy, rainy conditions start to pick up in Bradenton. This is just image of right over the Manatee River there.
And you know what? This is a good time for maybe the very last dog walk for quite a while.
Great advice.
And that is exactly what we have a video of here. This was actually sent to me by my co-anchor, Linda Carson. I'm going to take a guess that that might be Kathy out there with her dog. But honestly, this is probably a good time to get the dog out one last time. Obviously, it's raining, but, you know, at least now we're looking at conditions a little bit safer than we're going to be seeing for the next several hours. And, you know, it's hard to be a dog on days like today. They don't quite understand what's going on, but, you know, I suspect they understand something's going on. We know animals feel low pressure and things like that, just like everybody else. And no doubt they probably feel a little bit of all of our anxiety. So I'm, oh, that's definitely Kathy. That's funny. I'm glad Kathy's puppy got to potty, and you might want to remember that yours does too.
And you know what's funny about that? Before we get to our next bit of of content, Stephanie. I was talking to my family, and they were trying to take the dog out earlier today, and she had a little accident, the little puppy in the house. But it's to be expected. Rather have that happen than go out and be unsafe. And I know I've got some images here. Before we take this, my husband was out earlier today in Lakewood Ranch safely, helping me as I'm here in studio. He got some video from Lakewood Ranch, so let's take a look at that.
We're out here in Lakewood Ranch. A lot of high winds coming through. The rain really starting to come in from all angles here. This morning it was a little bit of a light breeze. Now a lot more movement coming in from on the palm trees. Rain really starting to pick up. Power starting to flicker. Luckily we've been able to hold strong and we haven't lost power yet. But you know, obviously that can go in any minute. So we're just staying inside, staying safe.
More images of that exact area in Lakewood Ranch where my husband went out to try to be safe. You can see the palm trees, our pool, definitely full of more water than it had earlier this morning. You know, obviously he was safe when he went out to go do that, kept close by to where we were. So that was very nice of Dave to do that for us. But
yes,
certainly a scary situation over there. Lots of wind, lots of rain.
Yep, and definitely time to shelter in place as well. All right, we want to reiterate one more time, and I will double check for us here live on the website. Sarasota County still encouraging evacuations immediately in South County to a shelter. When I pull up the website, it's been red all day. It has now changed to purple. So that is the ultimate in alerts.
Oh.
If you are in Zone A or B, especially in South Sarasota County, absolutely right now is the time to go to a shelter. There are 4 schools in Northport and 1 in Venice still open, accepting pets. If you are in Zone A or B or a manufactured or mobile home, the county, the police, they want you to go right this moment. We are definitely down to the last few moments when it will be safe to travel.
And I know in Manatee County, too, they are still in shelter in place, Charlotte County as well. As you mentioned, we're still waiting to hear from Sarasota County if their instructions there will pivot in Sarasota. But, you know, shelter in place means no driving, no going on the roadways.
Yep.
Stay where you are. You want to make sure that you're not going outside. Stay away from windows, stay away from doors. And obviously, this is kind of an interesting piece of information. I had a viewer ask me, what should I do if my food goes bad? Well, at first, I'd say keep your refrigerator closed. But if in a few hours power goes out, I wouldn't put my bet on that because you never know what can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all going to be dealing with this together. Okay, ABC 7's James Hill was at a press conference just a little bit ago at the Sarasota County EOC. That's the Emergency Operations Center. We're going to listen in to see what he was able to find out. Okay, I guess we're going to go ahead and do the recap ourselves, Kels.
All right.
So here's what we were able to figure. I think we're going to go to a soundbite from James. We're going to see if we can effort that. But from everything I can tell, and James is our eyes and ears inside the Emergency Operations Center. So honestly, during Irma, I was inside Manatee County Emergency Operations, and that is really where you hear what is happening around the county. They have all the information, and they relay it to us. I think now we're going to be able to listen to see what James has been able to learn.
Hello, I'm Jamie Carson, the Director of Communications for Sarasota County Government, and I'm here to provide our community an update. Currently, Hurricane Ian is just under a Cat 5 at about 150 miles per hour. For your reference, a Cat 5 registers at 157 miles per hour. It is expected to make landfall this afternoon between Charlotte Harbor and Inglewood, which is located in Sarasota County. Winds are fast approaching 45 miles an hour in South County. Once this happens, it is unsafe for emergency vehicles to be on the road. The window for our evacuation levels A and B, the window to evacuate and go to an evacuation center, that window is rapidly closing. The weather is deteriorating. Leave now. You have a very short window. Once that window closes, which is going to happen very soon, you need to make preparations to shelter in place. Seek an interior space away from windows. Make sure you have your radio and your provisions. We will send out an alert to our community, not through Alert Sarasota, but through an automatic alert that goes to everyone in our community once that window has closed and they must seek shelter in place. Please pay attention to your emergency notifications. Currently, to give you an update for our evacuation centers, we have about 2,600 people in our evacuation centers and about 300 pets in our evacuation centers. All centers, as of this moment, are open. When it gets to a point, we're going to have to close those doors. We'll have people come in. We'll do the best we can. But it's really important. I cannot state this enough. If you are in evacuation level A and B, leave now. This is a life-threatening storm. It is essential. It is a major hurricane. All right, I will take questions from the group.
Can you explain a little bit more about that window of danger for folks, especially if, we have flooding that is going to happen from all of the rain? Like, how quickly do they have to move to get out to make sure that they're safe?
So for right now, we're focusing on the winds, right? The wind bands that are hitting us. It's raining everywhere, but the wind bands are what's really essential. When it hits 45 miles an hour, that's even for our emergency vehicles an unsafe time to be on the road. And that's where we're going to advise the community that you have to seek shelter in place. The winds are starting to progress from South County northward. All right, so as that window is getting ready to close in South County, it's rapidly approaching 45 miles an hour. So then we'll continue to communicate to our community regarding the rain and the water levels as those start to rise.
James Hill with ABC7. Can you talk about once it gets to that 45 mile an hour wind and how vehicles are encouraged, people who drive vehicles are encouraged not to get on the roads, whether it be utility trucks or somebody trying to seek safety?
So as we've been working with you and communicating to our community members and working the past few days to tell them about, the opportunities to leave and seek shelter, our evacuation centers open to allow for plenty of time for people to get set up. Once those winds, if you think about the average vehicle that our community members have, know this, think about our tactical vehicles. Our emergency vehicles. At 45 miles an hour, it's unsafe for them to be on the roads. So it's unsafe for our citizens in our community to be on the roads at that time. So when we make that announcement, it's time to seek shelter in place.
Jimmy, I know you just mentioned this, but just more than 2,000 people are in your area shelters?
Yeah, so we have about 2,600.
How concerning is that number when that's just a fraction of what capacity could have been there, and we're talking about 150,000 people in zones A and B?
So when you think about it, we have a capacity for 26,000, right? So we've learned some lessons after Hurricane Irma about communicating to our public. We always communicate that our evacuation centers are a last resort, right? It's not a luxury hotel. This is a last resort. You have to bring all your provisions. You have a limited amount of space. So we've been working really hard with our community to share that information around the year, not just during emergency. So the goal is that, we think that there are most likely, hopefully, some people that have left the area and that, are utilizing that evacuation center as a last resort. The numbers are concerning. They are concerning at 2,600. That's why we're advising our community members that if you are in evacuation zones level A and B, leave now. Go to an evacuation center.
Are you all getting your reports of trees being down, power outages? I guess what is it that folks in the community are seeing right now before the storm gets even worse?
So we're starting to get some preliminary reports. We have a reporting system. We're getting calls into our 311 center of citizens making some reports. We also have a system that's set up throughout our partners throughout the county with our municipalities and our local governments that can have reports coming in. So we are starting to see some of those preliminary reports of some damage. One of the points to make is that to truly assess the damage of this storm, we're not able to do that right now. That's going to be after. So another message I'd like to share with you that it's really important for our community to understand to give our teams, our tactical first in teams, time to go out there once the storm has passed to clear roadways and debris. We're not at this point. At this point, we're at the middle of the getting ready to have the storm impact us. Now is the time to think about life and safety. But that time for re-entry, that'll come after the storm passes. And we'll communicate that to the public. Yes, Dork, go ahead.
The numbers for the storm surge went up to 18 feet. What parts of the county are lower where that might be a bigger problem that you want people to be aware to stay away from?
So if you're thinking about we're a coastal community, right? So we have our keys all along the coast. You're thinking about storm surge. It's important for our community to realize that just because you don't see water, that you don't have that ocean view, you could very much still be impacted by storm surge. It's going to carry over. Another thing that factor is our rivers, our waterways. Just because you're not living on the beach doesn't mean you're not going to be impacted by flooding waters.
The north end of the county is typically floods when it gets in if it gets wetter, is there any concern getting to the University Parkway corridor on the Sarasota side?
We're concerned for our entire community right now, and we're monitoring all areas.
Can you take us into the command center at this moment? What decisions are being made? What things are being evaluated?
So right now, our command is working very closely with all of our partners at the state level, working with the National Weather Service, and working with our local municipalities. They're monitoring the weather reports coming in, making determinations. That 45-mile-an-hour mark is a really important mark for us. We're working very closely with our evacuation centers, making sure they have everything they need. You're thinking about backup generators, you're thinking about all the provisions. And our team, we don't just think about the now, we also have to think about 10 hours from now, 20 hours from now, and a week from now. So our team, in addition to focusing on the present in the moment, is already preparing and thinking about the aftermath.
James Dale with ABC 7 Sarasota. Senior citizens and those who are sick and shut in, should they call 311? What can they do to try to get help?
So for right now, we don't have that marker for the 45-mile-an-hour winds. So if they need assistance, they can call our 311 center. We'll help to assess and provide them information about where the nearest evacuation center. This is a community, all right? You're in a community. I like to say there's no such thing as an enemy in a foxhole. Now is the time that you should know your neighbor, all right? No matter what gripes you have about your HOA or what have you, get to know your neighbor. So we advise that if you know you have a neighbor that meets, as you're talking about, those things that they're elderly or they might have some additional needs, check on them, reach out to them. We still have phone service right now. Give them a call. We're a community and we're going to get through this together.
So you were saying just now that you guys still have phone service, folks still have power at this point?
So right now in some areas we are seeing, FPL does a great job of providing a power outage amount, so we are starting to see some power outages. Phone services, we're monitoring those as well, so that's changing by the minute as the weather conditions deteriorate. Yes. Yes, Annie.
Hi. I was wondering, should people who are not in the evacuation levels A or B, should they consider evacuating at this point?
So we're looking at this point, once those 45-mile-an-hour winds hit, we really are going to stress that you need to seek shelter in place, all right? So monitor your evacuation levels and also monitor with you, our local media partners, as we have reports that are come in of the areas that are of concern.
After emergency services kick off at 45 miles an hour, are the police going to be, any that are still out there, are they going to be pulling people over who might still be out, or is it a risk what you're going to do?
At that point, at 45 miles an hour, our vehicles, it's unsafe for any of our personnel to be on the roadways. We have to think about everyone's safety, to include our law enforcement and emergency personnel. I'll take 3 more questions.
As the 45-mile-an-hour winds hit South County first, will emergency services remain in North County, or will the county shut down at the same time?
So it's going to be a wave, all right? So as we watch those wind bands start to come in, they reach the 45 miles an hour in South County, they'll handle and stop their emergency services there. As those wave bands of the winds increase up northward, then it'll be kind of a wave throughout our county. All right, 2 more questions?
What's the latest you heard in there as far as the storm?
Well, I think it's important for us. We're all watching, right? You think about, there's been comparisons to Hurricane Charlie, but if you see the reports and you look at the path, it's the comparison. There is no comparison. Hurricane Ivan is a stronger storm, and it's going to be a devastating impact to our community.
Is there an expectation currently on what time those 45-mile-an-hour winds will start hitting the county? South
County, it's imminent. It's imminent. We're getting reports and we're watching right now. So we're working with our emergency partners that are located in South County, as well as we have an entire room filled in our multi-agency coordination center. We have representatives throughout the county, and they're in constant communication and monitoring those conditions. All right, any other questions?
Once that happens, do you mind once more just going over the checklist of what actions will take place once that 45-mile-an-hour hit? We're going to get the alert, and then...
So once 45-mile-an-hour hits and start in South County, our emergency vehicles are no longer allowed on the roadways. We are working very closely with those partners to have that update. Once that occurs, we're going to send out an emergency alert. This is a push notification. It's not something you sign up for. It's an automated notification. We highly encourage that if you have electricity right now, that you're charging your phones, you're charging your laptops, your iPads, anything that you can. All right. Once we start going through that process, you need to be cognizant of where you are and start to seek shelter in place once we hit the 45 miles an hour in the areas. We remind our community members that we have customer service representatives. These are individuals that are located at our emergency operations center handling calls 311. That's 311 if you're inside Sarasota County, 941-861-5000 outside of Sarasota County. They'll be there to assist you. These are individuals that live in our community. So they're right in this moment with you. We also ask the community to follow us on social media while they can at SRQ County Gov. And we have a lot of information that we're updating on a regular basis on our county website at scgov.net. And we just ask the community right now to really heed the evacuation notices. If you are in level A or B, leave now. And we'll continue to work with our media partners to provide an update. We ask the community to remain calm and to stay safe. Thank you for your time.
So we've got our first tornado warning up for a cluster of showers and thunderstorms moving through parts of Highlands County, rapidly moving up toward Wauchula. This is Doppler indicated, which means that they've seen some spin in the thunderstorms that are moving rapidly off to the north and to the east. And there may be a tornado forming within that particular thunderstorm cell. We're trying to see if we can get any couplets visible in this location, but as we take a look at the map, let's see if we can find that. It's in the areas of Wauchula, and I'm not really seeing any couplets here, but it is Doppler observed that there is something going on in one of these thunderstorm cells, and consequently we have been issued a warning for that particular cell. As we look at this, it's a probably pretty fast-moving cell, and what happens in these storm systems is as these thunderstorm cells kind of move in that direction, they interact with areas of the ground so that they slow the wind speeds at the ground, whereas the upper level winds still continue very fast. So you get this situation where you might see some thunderstorm activity that produces spin-ups very quickly in these moving storms. No shear markers here, nothing we can see that has any shear markers, so that's also a good sign. But the thunderstorm itself has again, maybe just moved now into areas around Wauchula. I'm assuming this is the thunderstorm cell here that has been drawing the questions. Let's take a look at ZDR. ZDR is something that we can look at that can kind of tell us whether or not we're seeing anything that causes concern. Don't really see anything there. The storm system itself is moving off to the north and to the east at a very fast clip. The velocity readings, again, let's take a look one more time and zoom in and see if we can find anything here that causes any concern on radar. Don't really see anything here that looks like a couplet. Not really seeing anything that, oh wait, now we're getting something in. Hold on, let's take a look over here and see what we find. May see, perhaps that was it right there. May see something, no, not seeing anything quite yet, but we'll keep looking for it. There might be a chance of seeing thunderstorm activity that is producing a couplet. A couplet is basically where you have a radar range gate that shows very different inbound and outbound wind speeds kind of right adjacent to each other. But no, I'm not seeing it in here. The storm system moved very quickly, probably traveling at the speed of some of these thunderstorms that we've been seeing earlier. Might be this one right here, possibly. Let's see if we can see some shear data that might show it. Shear data might not be coming in. Don't really see anything here that looks like a thunderstorm. Velocity data, once again, maybe that's it right there. Velocity data, maybe right in here we're seeing a little bit of rotation. That's the only possible place where I can see anything that looks like a thunderstorm that may be producing something like an issue with rotation. Let's take a look at the velocity data once again. And there it is. Okay, we found it. It's right near U.S. Highway 17 South. That is moving off to the north and the east at a very fast clip. Let's home in on that and see what we can find here. That system is gradually drifting toward the area, the intersection there of 17 and U.S. Highway 17 and areas around 66. That's in in DeSoto County or Hardy County rather, moving very rapidly off to the east and to the north and to the west rather. All of that gradually lifting off to the north and to the west. So there is right now a warning up for that area. Probably moving out of there pretty quickly, though. The Doppler velocity showing not much here now. We had one little brief range gate, one little brief volume scan where we saw that, but I think that these storms tend to do that. They move so quickly that it's difficult to track them because they're in and out of there so fast. So right now it looks like that particular storm cell may have seen whatever rotation was there kind of dissipate away. Again, not seeing anything on the Doppler estimate there, not seeing anything. Let's take a look again at some of the CC values, not seeing anything that pops up there. The watch is for this area located right here moving toward Wauchula for the possibility of a spin up in a thunderstorm cell. But as far as any specific range gate, we're not seeing any couplets out here that kind of indicate that. Shear values, no, don't really see anything here either in the shear values around Wauchula. There's one little shear marker way out there, but that's not strong enough to produce tornadic activity. So in any event, if you do live in this area, you've got big thunderstorms moving through right now near Wauchula. That thunderstorm cell moving off to the north and to the east at about 45 to 50 miles per hour. So a very fast clip indeed. As we watch these storm systems make landfall, we'll probably see more and more of these storms kind of moving on in and producing the potential for some strong thunderstorm cells with maybe some rotation involved. The amount of thunderstorm activity that we're likely to see today will produce these kind of very strong couplets from time to time. So we'll watch for that. Let's check the velocity again. No, still not seeing anything there that to me appears to be anything suggesting rotation that might have reached the surface. So that's a very good thing to see. Not seeing anything there, not seeing anything to the north. We had one little couplet for a brief period of time near Wauchula, but that has since dissipated away with this particular range gate that we're looking at now. So good news there. All inbound and outbound winds are looking pretty quiet. If there was a system, it looks like it might have moved on by this point. So that's very good news. Look how fast these storm systems are moving, probably at a speed that's coming in pretty close. There's one really heavy storm cell right there near Wauchula. That little area there looks like it has very strong returns, but I'm not seeing anything that approaches like a hook echo or anything like that that might suggest kind of circulation at the ground. As far as the shear markers go, anything popping up there yet? Briefly, we had one little shear marker pop up. Hold on, let's go back and stop this and see if we can find it. No, we can't find it. It was very brief, came through one little range gate, and then it disappeared. Watch, we'll put it into motion. There it is, and then it's gone. So it's probably one of those situations where a brief spin up occurs, and then the storm system moves on. That often happens with these strong storms that occur around the circulation of a fast-moving hurricane rain band. So we'll continue to watch for these storm systems to produce these kind of things, although most of what we have seen today has been over on the other coast where it's most highly favored and then down to the south. Let's see if they're still having the warning up across the region. Yeah, it's still there until about 12:15 is what they're suggesting in terms of that. But I think that pretty soon here they'll be probably deciding that that storm cell no longer has the potential of producing any kind of spin up. Looks pretty flat to me, but very strong wind speeds. We're looking at wind speeds that are coming in at 30 miles per hour, 28, 30 miles per hour. Wind speeds near 34 miles per hour in upper atmosphere. So this is inbound, this is outbound kind of wind flow moving across the state. This is one of the reasons why we've seen the mouth of Tampa Bay being drained from water, because of these fast winds moving across the region. Right now, the radar is showing those heavy thunderstorms continuing to move rapidly across areas of Wauchula and producing very heavy rainfall. Very fast wind speeds as well as they move on a track that carries them across the area very, very rapidly. We'll take another look at the velocity and see if we're picking up any kind of no, still not picking up any kind of a gate there. Shear values, any shear values? No, nothing here that looks suspicious as well. Let's zoom in just to double check and see if there's anything that we might be concerned about. But right now, it doesn't look like there is. So that's good news. We had one brief little shear marker that occurred. Now everything is very quiet. I suspect they'll be canceling that watch here pretty soon. Don't see anything that looks too terribly suspicious. We'll check back with that in just a second here, but first let's take a look at some other things. I wanted to show you, we were talking about the storm system, how it's pushing out water. Well, that's what we're seeing here at Shell Creek near Punta Gorda, where the outgoing, the incoming rainfall rates have produced such heavy rainfall down around the mouth of Charlotte Harbor that we're also getting some reports of wind pushing out in the Punta Gorda side of Charlotte Harbor, pushing out the water there as well and leaving some dry creek beds that will be rapidly filling up once again. This is the Shell Creek flow, and you can see over the course of the last, probably 12 hours or so, it's gone from nearly 75 cubic feet per second all the way up to nearly 1,000 cubic feet per second. Manatee River, the same sort of situation, 75 cubic feet per second to over 700. But the port of Manatee has actually seen a decrease in the tide height compared to what is predicted because of that flow of air pushing all that water back out. So kind of interesting there. We're going to take another look at the radar and see if we can pull up any kind of a signature that may have occurred for the area just to the just outside of Charlotte County. This is Hurricane Ian. Let's see, we're in the radar now. Let's go to velocity. And we're looking to the north here. So let's check that out and see what we've got. Don't see anything here that appears to suggest a couplet. So, yeah, that's good news. We're glad to see that. There still is, however, a warning up, a watch and a warning for this area. That's up for about another 10 minutes or so, for the possibility of a spin up from a thunderstorm cell that I think is now probably well outside of Wauchula. We'll take one more look at the velocity data, take one more look at the shear data, see if we find anything that looks suspicious. And we really do not, only that one little quick blip, and that was it. So good news. We continue to monitor these things just in case something does pop up that we need to look at. But it looks like everything is pretty quiet here. I don't see any kind of thing that might look like a hook echo in this imagery. So we're glad to see that. Wanted to show you something about what we were talking about earlier, which was the circulation around Ian. We were talking about how strong that storm cell looked down to the south, that center of circulation, and how large it is as well. All of the water that is being produced by the circulation, producing perhaps some storm inundations that come in at about a foot along the Manatee River, and then down to the south, we got some pockets here where you might see 3 feet around areas pretty near Nokomis, near the fish camp there. We're seeing some areas where you might get also some inundation levels that come up around 5 feet or so, 5 or 6 feet, but it's really around the mouth of Charlotte Harbor where the heaviest of the inundation is likely to occur. So that is a problem that is going to persist until the storm system actually makes landfall for several more hours. We'll be seeing this inundation possible of as much as 16 feet above ground level, with some of the water being pushed into that area. Heavy thunderstorm activity has led to some impressive rainfall rates. We're looking at 7 to 8 inches, and as far as the wind speeds go, they're picking up. 55-mile-an-hour wind gusts now in Sarasota. Northeast at about 2, a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust coming in close to Venice, and a northeast wind with sustained at about 48. In Punta Gorda, 67-mile-per-hour gusts and a 37-mile-per-hour wind speed as well. East coming in with that particular wind near Punta Gorda. All in all, we're looking at the storm system continuing to produce very strong winds across the area, power outages, and heavy storm surge. Let's go back to the news desk now.
All right, John, thank you. Working hard for us all morning long. I do want to provide you an update from the city of Bradenton. The government just tweeted out that they have received word from their public works staff that their wastewater treatment plant is full and they are in danger of overflowing. So what they're asking everyone in Bradenton to do in the city of Bradenton to conserve your water. So what does that mean? That means no dishes, no laundry. You want to flush only when necessary, limit showers, that sort of thing. So, of course, you want to limit all of your water use within the city of Bradenton. The government tweeting that out to let everyone know, please, please, please conserve.
Yep, and we're going to start to get reports from utilities, of course, as we go throughout the storm. Many people, of course, worried about their power. Florida Power and Light is reporting nearly 70,000 outages right now. Just over 69,000 is what we are learning in between the counties. So those numbers that we're seeing there, just a little bit updated now, and we're looking at really expecting this to just increase considerably. I'm reading online that there's more than 315,000 outages across the state, but they have unprecedented amounts of crews standing by. Tomorrow, when this has gone by, then we'll start to worry about the power. But hopefully everybody can charge their phone. That way you'll be able to be with us as long as possible. Let's take a look outside with some of our traffic cameras and check on road conditions. ABC 7's Holly Harper's here.
All right, here's what I'm tracking for you. I have been toggling between the cameras to kind of get a good look. Luckily, not too many cars on the road. They've heeded the warnings, but this is a live look. This is the northbound lanes here at Fruitville Road at 75. You can see a car there. Tons of rain you can see coming off their tires. And then, of course, southbound over here, the camera is bouncing up and down. So taking a look at our traffic flow map, this will show us any bridge closures. Of course, we've known about these. They closed a lot of them at 8 p.m. last night. So we've got the closures here. Skyway Bridge, I was just checking in with FHP. They have reported wind gusts of 65 to 75 miles per hour. Now, they'll close that bridge anytime it's over 40 miles per hour. So we are well above that. So closed to traffic both directions, and a lot of wind reported in that area. And of course, zooming into these bridges as well, Cortez, Manatee Avenue heading on out to the beach. Of course, those are closed as well. And then Sneed Island is closed, and the John Ringling Causeway Bridge. So the police department wants you to know a lot of problems when the flooding happens in the roadways. They don't want you driving around those barricades. 12 inches of fast-moving water can sweep a car off the road. This is from Bradenton Police. And then they said most flood fatalities occur in a vehicle. So when we get that ponding water, which we will on the roadways, some of them have already been flooded. Taking a look at the traffic flow map, I'm watching and monitoring to let you know when that happens. I will definitely make you aware of that, but they are saying do not drive around the barricades. Do not drive in the flooded areas. You definitely can't see what the road's doing. You might think you're on the road. You might be heading off the road. Very hard to see. So the warning definitely coming out when that ponding happens throughout the day, tomorrow. Those will be things to keep you safe. And of course, we'll keep you informed here as well. Traffic is sponsored by Roofing by Curry.
All right, thank you very much, Holly. And everything she's talking about is going to be very applicable tomorrow. Okay, this is sad. Everybody in Sarasota knows this sign very, very well. You are looking at the Sarasota Jungle Garden sign, the one that says turn here. It has been knocked down, definitely a bit destroyed, not being able to sustain standing in the tropical storm force winds that we are now feeling across the area. So that kind of a landmark there on the trail. I know hopefully we'll be able to get that repaired.
No, and we were always expecting these damages to come as a result of this storm. We've got more storm damage to show you. We got a lot of trees blocking lanes of Tamiami Trail, US 41, northbound and southbound. It's just north of the downtown Sarasota area. As you can see, debris has been flying everywhere. Rain and winds were picking up. Take a look. That's a full tree down right there in the roadway, and certainly causing a lot of visible damage, as you can see, and certainly making for an awful situation if you are headed out either Manatee or Sarasota County, which you should not be on the roadways unless it is a complete emergency. You have to make it home. You are evacuating. Look, we've got a car that was actually stopped, couldn't even make it through the lane because the roadway was so blocked there. And I think we're going to send it back over to meteorologist John Scalzi, who has an update for us.
I think we're going to look at Naples first, because I got to tell you, some of the things that we're seeing from the Naples Pier has really been sobering over these last couple of hours. Okay, first the water was well below the pier, then we saw it coming up to pier level, and now we are seeing portions of that pier submerged. About an hour ago, there were people out, looking, sightseeing the hurricane. The exact opposite of what we want everybody to do. We watched law enforcement come out and make sure that pier got evacuated, and unfortunately, as we continue to watch this live over the next couple of hours, it'll probably not looking real good for all that pier holding on and staying in one piece. So this is a preview, John, yes, of what is going to be moving our way.
Yeah, we talked about how we've seen that in past storms where the water just crashes over the piers that people are on. We saw that a lot in Sandy. We saw it in Michael. And then, they get carried out because there's such a strong rip current involved with those waves crashing on shore. We still have a tornado warning up for parts of Manatee for the next few minutes. But again, I just wanted to update you that looking at this storm system and looking at the velocity estimates, we're really not getting anything that shows any kind of a couplet. But where we briefly did for one scan, it looked like it was right along 64, just beyond 17, and in that area there appeared to be some sort of rotation in a thunderstorm cell that might have spawned a brief tornado, but it moves very quickly. It's gone now. We really don't see much. This tornado warning, I'm sure, will be coming down in the near future. We're not seeing much in the way of any kind of rainfall across the region that is producing anything other than this one area right here. We'll take another look at that again and just see whether or not we can see anything that might even approach any kind of circulation. Generally speaking, we are looking at these thunderstorm cells moving at such a fast rate of speed that it's difficult to find anything that would approach that kind of strong level. Clearing out the watch box, we'll take a look at the thunderstorm cell, and we don't really see any kind of a hook echo here. We do see some very heavy rainfall around Wauchula. Taking a look at the velocity data, we don't see anything that looks like a couplet here. Taking a look at the shear markers, we're not seeing anything that approaches anything that looks like a tornadic activity. So that's kind of good news. I expect that the warning will be discontinued pretty soon for this storm system that has a thunderstorm cell that at one point suggested there might be some rotation. Interestingly enough, when you have a Doppler indicated tornado from the Weather Service, according to their computers, kind of trigger that rotation, that mesocyclone, as a potential for producing some sort of a spin up that could produce a tornado. Most of the time, almost 75 to 80% of the time, it turns out to be a false alarm. No tornado actually forms when it's Doppler indicated. But nevertheless, we continue to follow it because, you never know. Still, no couplet on the radar, so good news there. We continue to follow that and watch that storm cells move rapidly away. There's another one we'll have to monitor coming in from Highlands County. That one may also have a pretty good rate of return on the radar, DBZ, so this could perhaps produce something eventually, although we're not seeing anything right now that suggests that it does. So good news there. Taking a look at any of the other estimates, ZDR doesn't show too much. No, I don't see anything here that kind of worries me too much. Nothing that shows any kind of debris around. So good news there. We're glad to see that. The radar is still showing those rapidly moving thunderstorms, though. As far as the watch or warning goes, it looks like it has officially been discontinued, so we're watching that go. So we're glad to see that. Shane, you have something breaking in your department?
Yes, John, thanks for coming back. All right, so another thing out of Northport, their police just posted on Twitter a few minutes ago saying they've suspended their operations. That means no more police coming in and out of Northport. They're saying for the same reasons we've spoken about for these other police organizations. Winds right now are too high for them to keep going. So if you are in Northport and you are having an emergency situation, unfortunately, you need to sit tight. It's going to be some time before you get any assistance. So far, Sarasota County, though, the sheriff's office saying they are still mobile. They're still doing their operations, still taking in evacuees. However, you can expect those responses to be more limited as this goes on, as these winds keep getting more intense. They are going to have to start pulling back some of those forces. That's the same for Sarasota police as well. So Northport over there, their police are pulled back. Their responses are going to be null at this point. Not sure how long it's going to be until they come back online and can go back to helping people again. But just know for the larger county, there is still some responses, but very limited at this hour.
And I know we have seen these updates come down from Northport as well as Charlotte County, where they have, stopped all resources there. Really, Manatee County, they're limiting things there as well. So if you do need help, this is not to scare you. This is to prepare you. This is a very dangerous storm, high winds, lots of water. If you are heading out or if you are in need of help in either Charlotte, Northport, Manatee County, they are stopping. Now, you may be wondering why hasn't Sarasota acted quite yet? Well, the goal is here, it appears they are trying to evacuate as much people as possible out of Sarasota to try to get them to safety before they kind of will cease all operations there. And if you're just joining us too, in Bradenton, another service that hasn't been shut off, but is probably on the brink of it. The city of Bradenton is actually urging residents there within the city to limit your water use. So limit the showers, flushing of toilets, using of sinks, kitchen sinks, that sort of thing, dishwasher, laundry. You want to heavily limit that because the wastewater system at Bradenton is on the brink of overflowing and flooding.
Absolutely, definitely something to keep in mind. And always take these warnings seriously. Whenever you see these, make sure you're taking them seriously. They don't put this up lightly. They know we're in a bad situation, so they're not doing that to make your lives more uncomfortable than they are right now. You got to know that these are definitely very important, very serious. So definitely do that, especially if you're in Bradenton. Now, our producers are telling us we've got some images into our newsroom now. We're going to go and take live right now. That's from the sheriff's office. They put up a few different images showing the areas all around the county. There's a downed tree.
Wow.
Some flooding in one of the roadways here. There appears to be a car parked off to the side watching it. Another tree down. They put up those three just to kind of give a bit of a look around the area, showing people what's going on. They said they are still responding to those calls of service like we were talking about, but they still want you to stay out the roads. And guys, I got to say, for those of you, we've been seeing this on the live cams. I've still been seeing cars driving around as early as 15 minutes ago or so. Please don't do this. With these first responders, they are still out there in Sarasota County. They will help if they have to, but it would be great if you would not put them in that situation. Just stay home. That way you don't put yourself in a spot and don't need any kind of rescue, because that can only lead to bad things going forward as the storm keeps getting more intense. But just know that Sarasota County Sheriffs, they are still here for you at this point.
Yes, they are still willing to serve all of our residents here, as we are willing to serve you as well. And I want to take a moment to remind you, if you haven't done so already, I think now would be a great time, while your phone is charged, while you have access to internet, to download the ABC7 First Alert weather app. So what you can do, you look for it in the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. Type in WWSB, My Suncoast, or ABC7 First Alert Weather. It should pop right up there. You just search a few things. And once you download it, make sure you subscribe to Push Alerts so you can have information the moment that we push it out here at ABC7.
Yeah, all these big alerts are going to be going through there. That's like one of the primary tools we use to get our information out on top of TV and social media. So if you got that, then you're very well prepared. And what's great about that app, too, is that you can click on these specific tabs talking about your area specifically and all these warnings with a lot more detail. So if you're curious about, how it's handling your neck of the woods, all those certain impacts you're expecting in your area specifically, that's a great place to go that way. As we keep rotating through our larger coverage, talking about the entire area, you can focus in real finely to your exact area that you want to focus on as well. And then on top of that as well, I also want to mention again that If you guys can help us out again by sharing some of your photos and videos with us, also by using your phone, that would be of extreme use to us. We're still continuing to cover this and see more about what's happening in all of our neighborhoods. Like we just showed you those images before from the sheriff's office. Images like that are very, very helpful because it shows us exactly what's happening in our area, gives us an idea of what's on the ground level, which is so, so important as this continues. But make sure only do it if you can do it safely. And now, and we got some other viewer video, Kelsey.
Yes, Jane, I'm going to take this one. This is coming in from one of our viewers, Michelle. She is over in Venice. Take a look at this. Wow, you can see the water there. It appears that that's a lake right near where she lives. You can see the wind and the water. That water starting to rise there with all those homes there down in Venice. This is right from one of our viewers, Michelle. She sent this into ABC7. Certainly making for an unsafe situation there. We know in Venice this storm is really going to have a lot of impact, but not just Venice. Everywhere across the Sun Coast, we are going to feel this in some facet, whether it be outside, rising water, or perhaps to a smaller magnitude where you're just losing power. I know in Lakewood Ranch we were getting some reports of people power flickering there. It wasn't out quite yet, but in terms of power outages, I want to remind our viewers, if you're just joining us, we have in Charlotte, Manatee, and Sarasota counties combined close to 70,000 people without power. So what does that mean? Well, in Charlotte County, it looks like there is about 9,510 people without power. I expect that number to rise.
Yeah, very likely.
In Manatee County, we have 21,190 people without power as we speak. And in Sarasota County, 39,250 people without power. Now, that's not to just throw numbers out at you, just to kind of provide some information to let you know that power is going out. But it appears we've kind of seen those numbers fluctuate throughout the morning. I guess they've been repairing the power and keeping it go as we speak. So that's always some bright news out of all of this.
Yeah, a little bit. That's good to know. So that is encouraging for everyone to listen to. So if your power does go out, it's important that you don't panic. Just go back to your original plan like we've been talking about for days. You already had this together. You've got your equipment with you. You've got your battery supplied power. You've got other things to keep you entertained, food items, your action plan for your family, entertainment for your kids. Lean on that when you go through like these power outages, and just know that Florida Power and Light, they are alerted whenever this power does go out. You've heard us talk about this a little bit earlier this morning. So there's no need to call or get into any kind of situation where you feel like you need to wave your arms and show that there is an outage, because they are alerted automatically. The only times where you really need to call is if there is a down power line. And actually,
it looks like we have
our newsroom. Yes, we've got a CNN reporter. Ivan Rodriguez is going to be doing a report to us. Let's go and go to that.
Looks like he is live from Punta Gorda. Are you with us, Ivan?
I can hear you guys. How are you?
How are conditions looking where you are in Punta Gorda? Can you paint us a picture right now?
Well, I can tell you within the last hour, we were a little bit closer to the water. We were sitting at a park, Gilchrist Park to be exact. We received an alert on our phone saying it's no longer safe to be outside or on any bridges. At that point, we decided to leave that area and come here to a parking structure where we're standing now on the 3rd floor. Now, you can see behind me to get an idea of how strong these winds have gotten, especially in the last 30 minutes. Look at the way that these palm trees are moving. The rain actually just picked up as well. The rain had calmed down over the last 20 minutes. Now we're seeing it begin to ramp up again. We're also learning that around 330,000 people across Florida have lost their power.
And it looks like, I can't tell, is there power on where you are right now? Looks like things are probably starting to get a little bit rough. So at your place where you are right now, do you have power?
Where we are right now, we still have power. And when I look across at other buildings, it seems like power is still here in Punta Gorda for the most part. Earlier this morning, when we were at that park, a transformer blew and the power was gone in that park. But as far as outages here, from what I can tell, it still seems like we do have power. I am learning new information coming out of Naples, though, and Naples seems to have about 5 feet of storm surge, and that's passing the highest level that was set back in 2017 with Hurricane Irma. That level there was 4 feet, so already surpassing that. And at this point, we're still not even in the middle of this hurricane yet, and we're expecting here in Punta Gorda up to 18 feet. Very concerning. Earlier this morning, we were reporting 12 feet, and it seemed like a lot. Now we're talking about up to 18 feet of storm surge.
And Ivan, we know this is a historic storm, Hurricane Ivan, making landfall as a Category 4. So something that we've seen as anchors in studio, we've seen some drivers out in the Sarasota, Manatee County area. You're south of us in Punta Gorda. So have you seen people out on the roadways? What are driving conditions like down there? We know it is very unsafe.
Well, even just on our drive from Gilchrist Park, a little bit closer to the water here in Punta Gorda, to this parking structure, we already saw some down branches. Not trees yet, but down branches. A lot of palms were scattered across the roads. We're expecting that to get even worse. Really, the roads here, though, in Punta Gorda are pretty empty. People seem to have taken this very seriously. We don't even see people out on the streets, and that's been the case really going even back to yesterday afternoon. The town is very quiet. A lot of the businesses were closed down yesterday as well. So a lot of folks now sort of heeding that advice. Now is the time to shelter in place.
Absolutely. And last thing I want to ask you as well, what's the communication been like for you over there in Punta Gorda as far as the local officials trying to communicate with everyone, letting them know what's happening to make sure they are sheltering in place and doing all the things they need to do?
Well, I think that definitely varies from location to location. Here in Punta Gorda, we have been communicating a lot. I think the biggest strong message that we heard from first responders here in the area, like many other counties across Florida, was that those emergency services were going to be no more until the storm calms down. So for those people who are sheltering in place here, they're going to have to shelter in place and also wait until that storm calms down because they won't get any first responders coming to assist.
All right, Ivan, thank you so much. That was Ivan Rodriguez, a CNN reporter, giving us live information from Punta Gorda. And with that, let's check in with First Alert meteorologist John Scalzi. John, what is the newest information that you have right now for us?
We're getting wind gusts near Punta Gorda of up to 80 miles per hour right now, and we have had some triggering of some alarms down in southern Sarasota County and near southern parts, southwestern parts of Charlotte County for an extreme wind warning. Extreme wind warnings are issued when there is an issue with the strength of the winds that are being reported, and 115 mile per hour winds might be seen. The general winds around this area in particular are where we're looking at that strong wind flow occurring. I've even had some Doppler estimates right here. Right here, you're seeing that rain band kind of moving on shore. That is the outer edge of the wall of the storm. It has not technically made landfall yet, but it's doing one of the worst things it possibly can. That is skirt the coastline with its eye wall. So you get a spread of these strongest wind speeds. So areas like Gasparilla, Pine Island, maybe even up into Inglewood, getting those really strong wind speeds. And some of that occurring too in southern parts of Sarasota County. Let's see if we can get some wind speeds measured here. We got 72 mile per hour wind speeds. There's 134 mile per hour wind speed being reported by Doppler radar down around areas of Gasparilla. We're also watching maybe a little bit further north, seeing some of those really strong wind speeds occurring. Let's see if we can get some of that triggered off on the Doppler estimate of velocity here. So wind speeds of, well, that one's 30. It depends on where you are. We've got a 58 there, and a 65 mile per hour wind there. We're now getting into the core of those strongest winds beginning to move on shore, the damaging waves. As the whole system begins to lift a little bit further northward, I think what we're going to see are the winds start to really turn to onshore. We have had winds that have basically been offshore, and that has allowed for some of the draining of some of the north-facing beaches along Charlotte Harbor. But now we're starting to get a more onshore wind flow that's really going to start increasing the wave heights and the storm surge. Right there is the southern edge of the eye wall. It looks like the eye wall is just now trying to move into areas of the southern part of, say, around Gasparilla, move into that area. But as far as the center of circulation of the storm, it's still not quite there yet. Captiva getting perhaps a little bit of clearing taking place right now as we go into the next maybe 40 minutes or so, we'll start to see this climb northward into southern parts of Sarasota County. Very strong winds. People have asked me about comparing this to Charlie. This storm system is much, much larger. In fact, if you took a look at the radius of this storm system, you could probably put maybe 3 Charlies right into the center of the storm system and maybe have room for half a Charlie more. So we're still looking at a really large storm system producing a wide swath of very strong winds all up and down the coast here. So this entire area getting hit pretty hard right now, and I'm sure there's going to be damage as we go through the assessment period as we move into the next couple of days. We're seeing Inglewood just on the fringe of some of these strongest wind speeds contained within these brightest echoes that we're seeing here. This is a very slow moving system, so it may take another 45 minutes for Inglewood to get involved in the kind of heavy thunderstorm activity that they're experiencing just to the south of them right now near Captiva. Actually, Captiva might be coming out into a kind of a clearing situation, as I mentioned, in the eye wall. But it may not last, because as the system lifts northward, they'll get onto the other side of the eye wall, which will produce even heavier wind speeds. The second half of this system, as it lifts north, that's the ones with the strong onshore flow that will cause a rapid rise in sea level. The amount of rainfall that we're getting here, too, must be pretty impressive in areas just to the south. Yeah, 1.5 inch rainfalls, probably some 2-inch rainfalls as well, contained within some of these bands. Almost 2-inch rainfalls, 1 7/8. All of that coming down right along the coastline, producing some really, really tough weather there. We'll continue to watch the storm system lifting northward, producing its rainfall around. But right now, if you're in this area, right along between Pine Island, Captiva, and Inglewood, you need to be in your safe room of your house, no matter if it's well built or if it's not. This is the time you need to seek shelter. You need to get into that interior section, even if you are shuttered, just to be sure that you're safe. But we have more viewer video of the situation taking place. Let's go back to the desk.
All right, John, let's take a look at that viewer video. We're taking a look at some of the damage from Hurricane Ian. Strong winds coming to Sarasota, ripping a patio screen open. So let's take a look at that video right now. Do we have that video, producers? All right, looks
it's
like
coming
we're
for us in just a second. But yeah, I was looking at some like that before.
Yeah.
I think we're probably about to see the same ones while I was looking at some of the videos that have been coming into our newsroom. And yeah, they've been bad, especially down in Venice, too. We've been seeing that severe wind. You see right here? Yep, that's the one I was watching before. Look at that thing. That screen just dangling from there because that wind comes in so sharply. That just kind of gives you an idea of what the strength is over there. Even like the netted, screens they have out there, you'd think would filter out that rain, but over here, no, not enough. It just blasts right through it.
I Shane, talking about the strength of those hurricane winds. Okay, we got to talk about this. I saw this little piece of history that was shared from ABC just now. Only 4 hurricanes on record have made landfall in history with winds above 155 miles per hour. The first one on record was called the Labor Day hurricane before we started using this name system of hurricanes here within the National Weather Service. And that was with winds of 185 miles per hour back in 1935. That was the Labor Day storm. So speeding it up now to the most recent before Hurricane Ian was Hurricane Michael with winds at 160 miles per hour before Michael made landfall. And I think that's just so important to provide, just some context, some history here with how significant, how historic Hurricane Ian is here, and it's here in Florida on the Sun Coast, approaching Naples, Venice, what have you. It is here and making history.
Yeah, and I think that is probably starting to become a lot more obvious to people today versus yesterday, because the other day I was out and about in Siesta Key driving around for the evacuations, talking to a few folks, and I was kind of surprised by some of the attitudes I saw there. I saw a handful of people kind of pulled over and kind of chatting with me on the side of the road, asking about the reporting, and they're just going to give it a shrug, said, hey, I'm from Florida, I've seen hurricanes, whatever, I'm just going to hang out at home for a little bit. Not a big deal, but we're seeing right now that it is a big deal. It's not just any other hurricane you've been through. There's a lot of people in our newsroom who have been through many hurricanes in the past, and they can tell you that this one is a lot more serious than the ones in the past. So just know that, hold on, we're getting another alert right now.
Very good.
A public safety alert about winds at 45 miles an hour emergency vehicles no longer responding from Center Road South. So
that's Sarasota County then, because we're in
Yes.
Sarasota County. Okay, so that looks like, Shane, what he had just mentioned. We just got this alert into our phones here within ABC 7 Studios for Sarasota County. What that means is emergency vehicles cannot help you in Sarasota County. So this is breaking information. This was pushed out as a public safety alert from our local government to let you know that help will not arrive in time. If you have an emergency, they're stopping because winds have now reached above 45 miles per hour here in the Sarasota area. So that is the newest information we do have. Certainly important for you to know. We've seen it in Manatee County. We've seen it in Northport. We've seen it in Charlotte County. And it looks like now, officially in Sarasota County, emergency services have stopped.
Yep, everything cut off. And then it also goes for, not just the emergency vehicles, but also the police as well. James Hill had sent in a report about, 10 minutes before this saying that the police had been rolling back their services. At that time, EMS were the last ones that were left behind. And so that's what was left behind. But now we're seeing these are the last few that were there. Now let's go and take a look at some of our traffic cams right now. Going over to our screen. Let's see if we can get that up on camera. Do we have that one? It's going to be up on US 41, I believe. Our producers may still be working on getting that up right now.
Tamiami Trail, I was seeing some before we came to the air. I saw some.
They're bad. Check that out.
Wow, look at that. Okay, it looks like we have this shot here. This is Tamiami Trail in Beneva. As you can see, wind is just battering that live traffic cam that you see over the intersections there. No one on the road, and
that's a good thing.
It certainly is a sigh of relief. Not that this is a safe storm at all, but thankfully there is no one on the roads, at least from what we see on this camera right now. Certainly making for an unsafe situation. Yeah, really, really scary. You can see wind hitting there. I can kind of see the water too when it hits the pavement. So certainly no drivers out there as to be expected because in Sarasota County, no more emergency services. Manatee County, no more services. No one should be on the road.
Absolutely so. And, just to show you some of the wind damage we had before from US 41 specifically, you all know that big Jungle Garden sign that's up over on that road.
Oh.
That's gotten knocked down. You might have seen those photos on social media. I saw that on my feed just a little bit ago. Yeah, that's a pretty good sized structure too. So if these things are getting knocked down, that can be batted down. Your little car, can also get taken away as well. So you really got to take this seriously. And luckily that seems to be the case, at least for now, that a lot of those cars are off the road, sheltering in place the way they're supposed to right now, which is the best and only thing you can really do until we ride this out.
Yep, and I think meteorologist John Scalzi now is standing by. John, can you provide an update of Hurricane Ian for us right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a reminder that we are now entering into areas of South Sarasota County and Charlotte County of the worst that this storm has to offer. A high extreme wind advisory has been issued by the Weather Service that's activated when the wind speeds reach 115 miles per hour. So that's what we have ongoing here. The center of circulation is just brushing up against the coastline. And as it does that, that's when those strongest storms start to come in. We're watching them produce 100, 115 mile per hour winds by Doppler radar estimates along Pine Island, Gasparilla, now moving very close to Rotunda. If you're in Rotunda, this is when you need to get into your safe room and seek shelter to make sure that you are not caught by surprise by some strong wind gust that may be headed in your direction. All in all, this storm system will continue to slowly, just ever so slowly, drift northward. You can see the center of circulation there. There's over the course of an hour. You see it. It really hasn't moved a whole lot. So it's a very slow motion to the north as the wind field somewhat expands. We have some dry air trying to be pulled into the system, but as long as it's over water, it continues to make its own thunderstorm environment wrapping around the core of the system and keeping it sustained with these strong wind speeds that we're seeing. Taking a look at the velocity estimates from some of these areas, we're looking at 83 mile per hour winds, 56 mile per hour winds, 105 mile per hour winds, and then even to the north, we're getting some winds that are not quite that strong, but they will be as we go through the next couple of hours and start to see these storms get bigger and bigger and bigger. The eye wall itself is very, very wide, and it looks like the track is pretty much on course for it to move between Venice and Port Charlotte as it makes landfall over the course of the next few hours. The side-to-side distance of this storm is really impressive. We're looking at an eye wall that's 30 to 40 miles wide, and all along that eye wall, there's winds that extend outward maybe 30, 40 miles that contain those extreme winds of 100, 110 mile per hour, reports of 155 mile per hour sampled by hurricane recon aircraft seeing the storm. We had earlier a very clearly defined center right here, a good stadium view. You can almost sort of still see it, how it's quiet and calm on the inside, but on the outside periphery we have the brightest, whitest clouds that are coming in. That is what's creating that kind of stadium effect that we're seeing here. All of that gradually drifting a little bit closer to the coastline, so areas like Gasparilla and Sanibel may be getting into the clear. They may be seeing peaks at the sun from time to time. That is not an all clear. Again, if you're in this kind of a situation and you get heavy winds for a brief period of time, then it calms down. It doesn't mean that you can come out, that it's all clear, that the storm is over. You still have the backside of the storm to get through, which can be equally as strong, if not more so, because the backside of this storm is still over water. So some of the stronger thunderstorm cells are rotating around that area, whereas right along the coast and to the south, that area is maybe getting a little influence from the land as well. Here's another view which very clearly shows the eye wall moving closer and closer to the coast. That is a water vapor imagery which shows you the moisture in the atmosphere and the circulation around the center. There is some dry air out here that may get tried to be entrained. As the system gets close to land, as its eye wall gets close to land, that's the time when it starts getting involved with the drier air that's pulled in off land and the frictional forces of this ground surface as well. That will tend to slow the storm and to decrease its intensity. With it cut off from the moisture supply after it gets over land, there's nothing to produce those large thunderstorms that create the heat that fuel this system. So as it kind of skirts the coastline, it could be the beginning of the weakening phase, but it's going to take a while. It'll still have very strong winds until that whole eye wall is over land. And that's probably going to take another 3, maybe 4 hours before the whole system is inland. Until then, you're going to get very strong winds all the way from Venice down through Inglewood into areas of Gasparilla, Rotunda. You're about to get very strong winds, maybe already are, maybe some wind speeds as high as 110 miles per hour, 115 miles per hour. The whole storm will lift north. Here's the latest forecast track, still sampling with 155 mile per hour winds as of 11 o'clock today. The next advisory will come in at 2, and maybe that'll give us some indication of what has changed with this system. North-northeast motion at about 9. Central pressure remains unchanged. Hopefully the 2 o'clock advisory will show some weakening with this storm, but it is still classified as a Category 4. Due to make it over land by, probably around 1 o'clock or so, and then start to decrease in intensity, maybe even by noon, start to decrease in intensity and generally start to fall apart with time. 1 o'clock is probably the time when we'll start to see it get far enough over land that the center of circulation will be considered a landfall. So we'll see where that actually occurs. Probably, I'm going to guess somewhere close to Venice is where it'll actually officially make landfall. We'll see how that plays out. As the storm moves on shore, it will spread its wind field into interior sections as well. So Hardy and DeSoto County, you're in line for some stronger winds a little bit later in the day. Perhaps as much as 90 mile an hour winds as the storm moves inland and decreases in intensity to a Category 3. Still a very strong storm system. You can see how the eye is beginning to perhaps fill just a little bit. Still strong thunderstorms around, no doubt about that. Boca Grande getting hammered right now by those strong storms. Let's see if we can pick up a Doppler radar estimate from Boca Grande, what they're getting there. 119 mile per hour winds. And that's just sustained winds. Gusts could even be a little bit higher than that, maybe 30% higher than that. The Hunter aircraft reported 160 mile per hour gusts as that storm system was sampled. So all in all, if you're in this area, southern parts of Charlotte County, all the way up through southern parts of Sarasota County, you are about to encounter hours of very, very heavy wind speeds. Back to you.
All right, thanks, John. Now we're going to check out some of our live looks outside right now with our traffic, as right now we're getting ready for a big update from the Sarasota County Emergency Operations Center. Right now we're checking out Goldstein and Sunset, Gulfstream and Sunset. You can see right now the camera is shaking and some of those trees still blowing in the wind right now. Wow. Now, this is important to be keeping an eye on everything that's happening in Sarasota County because we're learning more about the conditions there, changing the emergency responses. The big news we brought you just a little bit ago was that in Sarasota County, the winds now at 45 miles per hour. What that means is they can no longer send out emergency personnel or police to respond to emergencies, which we knew this was going to happen. This is now happening in all of our counties because the winds have gotten so intense. I know that's going to be addressed in the press conference right now that they're about to take.
Yes, we actually are waiting on 2 separate press conferences right now. They're queued up in our control room right now, just ready to take it as soon as either speaker start. The first one locally here in Sarasota County, the Emergency Operations Center there. They're going to provide us an update here in Sarasota County, but also on a larger scale for the entire state of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis. We are waiting on a press conference from him as well. He's going to be providing another emergency update for us here in Florida, especially in Sarasota County. So once again, if you're just joining us, 2 major press conferences we are standing by waiting for. So as soon as we hear the word, we will take those as soon as they are ready, both of those camera shots. But we are still tracking this crazy hurricane, historic hurricane.
Yes, absolutely.
Ian, it's something really serious. Looks like we got some feedback there. Do we have that shot yet? Are we going to take that, producers, or are we going to wait a little bit
I see we have it up. Looks like they're not set just yet.
Yeah, so as you can see, we are getting set up with both of these shots. We're still waiting to go. We've got Governor Ron DeSantis in the bottom of your screen, as well as Sarasota County. As you can see, the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, where we have a crew on site there as well. We are just waiting to hear word from either of those speakers. Eager to hear what update they have as of this morning. But what we can tell you, to reiterate, shelter in place in Manatee County, shelter in place in Charlotte County, Sarasota County. We haven't heard anything about that yet, but what we do know about Sarasota County is that emergency services have been suspended there. I know they've pulled them from Charlotte County. Even Northport Police Department is pulling their units off the streets to keep people inside. And just a few moments ago, you saw a video of all of the outside of Sarasota County and Punta Gorda. We were showing you just some of those high winds, even in Venice as well. We were showing you high winds and water. One thing we did not see, any drivers on the roadway. So it is a bit of a sigh of relief that we have seen less people, at least from those cameras. Can't speak for the rest of the roadways, obviously. Can't have eyes in every single direction, but we do know that, the less drivers we see, the better we feel, because you are heeding our warning and staying indoors, staying inside, taking cover, because we are in the thick of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, we have been seeing that throughout a lot of the morning. People actually hanging out near the beaches. Even in Naples, we saw that about an hour ago. People still hanging out by the water, enjoying a closer view, which is not something you want to be doing right now, because obviously it's very unsafe and getting more unsafe all the time, as we've been telling you about the emergency services being pulled back. But another thing I do want to tell you about as well, I was just pulling up a Facebook post put up by the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office. They put this up not too long ago. They want to explain part of the process of what they go through right now when they have to pull back services. They're saying here in this post that obviously whenever they get a phone call from someone needing services and they get that answer saying we can't come to you, it's upsetting. It's obviously causes a lot of fear in a lot of people because it's not something you're used to. So part of what they're trying to tell us right now is that individual agencies have to make these calls when the winds get to this certain point. That's what's happening. So they can't physically be out there, but that doesn't mean they can't do anything for you. Let me read this to you. They say here in this post that bear in mind with us that some agencies may not be able to respond in the coming hours, but in the event of cardiac arrest, choking, childbirth, an unconscious person, or a severe hemorrhage, our center's medical director is going to take those calls and provide as much guidance as possible. So know that if you are having some kind of medical emergency in your own home, someone can't come out to go see you. But if you get on the phone with them, you need some help saying, what do I need to do? How can I help? My wife, my child, my husband, whoever I'm with in the family, they can help you out that way. So don't think that you can't call for help if you're in that kind of situation. That's an important thing to keep in mind.
And, of course, they'll be there every step of the way to walk you through in the event they cannot respond. I want to show you now, we have video of downtown Sarasota. My producers tell me a sculpture in the area is being blown around. Apparently, this is happening in downtown Sarasota, so it looks like we are working to get that visual for you in just a few minutes. Obviously, it's a very fluid situation, live news. We get the information as soon as you do, so it looks like, Looks like we're pivoting.
All right, here we
Sarasota
go.
County has started their press conference. Let's listen in.
Monitoring the storm, our media partners, earlier we talked about our evacuation center numbers. We wanted to give you some updates. So right now we're about just shy of 5,000 people in our evacuation centers. A few minutes ago, we sent out an emergency notification to everyone within Sarasota County. That was to notify them that our emergency services are no longer on the roadways south of Center Road. Shortly, we're looking at putting out another notification regarding State Road 681. So what that means is that we are now at sustained 45 mile an hour winds. When sustained 45 mile an hour of winds, it's no longer safe for our emergency vehicles to be on the road. So it's no longer safe for our citizens to be on the road. Now is the time for you to shelter in place. I'll go ahead and take some questions.
We know that there are so many personnel in the building right now still actively trying to help residents, even though the roads aren't safe to drive across. Can you just talk to us about what's happening in this building? What resources are there if people are stuck or in a jam because of the storm?
So I'm sure you probably have seen our sheriff. They are responsible for our public emergency communications center that's located at the top of our emergency operations center. They put out some great information. I would advise our community to follow them on social media. They talked about the resources they have available if individuals are calling into 911. We also can take in calls to our 311 center that's also located at the top of our emergency operations center. We can provide additional information about what does shelter in place mean. Right, so sheltering in place means that you want to find the most center location in your home. You want to put as many walls between you and the exterior of your home. We're working the best we're getting calls, we're getting things through social media from people outside of the county asking for us if we could check on their residents. At this time, we're doing the best that we can as we are getting some reports that cell phone service is being interrupted as well as power.
From the last update you gave us just a couple of hours ago, I mean, your numbers doubled in the shelters. So what does that continue to tell you about people who are heeding the warning?
We have a very smart community. They understand the importance of heeding the evacuation notices. I'd like to thank our media partners for sharing this information with our community. We're taking this seriously. Not only are our county staff members who are working here at our Emergency Operations Center, our local government partners, our state partners, the National Weather Service taking it seriously, but our community is taking it seriously. And I think those numbers going on the rise for our evacuation summer demonstrates that.
What were to happen if someone shows up to a shelter front doors after their lockdown?
We're going to do our best to accommodate everyone we can, but we also have to think about the safety of the individuals. For our partners who are our media partners, you guys are out here with us at the Emergency Operations Center. You know what it's like to open the door on the outside. There's definitely an impact to individuals who are on the inside. So take that into consideration at the evacuation centers. We'll do our best to accommodate our community members. We want everybody to be safe.
It's James Hill with ABC7. Can you talk a little bit about wind damage and also the storm surge and the problems that can present?
So obviously we're looking at, incoming damage reports. I don't have any exact details to give you. I'll continue to work with you to have those reports go out. Wind damage, you're looking at, debris, obviously, that's being an issue. Power lines is a big issue right now. We're asking individuals to stay inside. If you see power lines go down, do not approach them, what have you. Obviously, we're also looking at storm surge. We're a coastal community, right? And that's really important for the coast, but also you have to think about our communities that are near our rivers, all right? So as the rain continues, you're going to see a rise in all of the water areas. Question?
If people are sheltering in place, at this point there's nowhere to safely go. What does the timeline look like today? And of course that's a moving goalpost, but what can you tell residents if they are sheltering in place about what the rest of today and tonight might look like for them?
So for our residents, our community members that are sheltering in place, again, I'd like to remind you to please go to the most center of the building that you're in. Put as many walls between you and the exterior. And this is going to be a long time. We're going to have a long day and we're going to have a long night. So rest when you can. Pace yourself. Try to stay calm. If you still have electricity, now is the time. Please charge your phone, charge your laptops, charge your iPads, anything you have that can help to give you communication externally if you were to lose power. We ask for you to hunker down, stay safe. It's going to be one for us to, all of us, we're in this together.
Jamie, can you bring us into the command center again? What kind of decisions are being made in there right now? What factors are being weighed?
So we have, as I mentioned before, this is something that we do. All right, we want to just let the community know that the Sarasota County government prepares for situations like this throughout the year. So our command center is focused on balancing two things, right? So we're focused on balancing the now, what we're in the moment, the conditions that we're experiencing, as well as already starting to make those preparations for after the storm. We're already thinking about operations. How can we set up rally points for us to set up points of distribution? All right, obviously we're having to monitor the entire areas because points of distribution could vary depending on the impact to the community. Another thing we're looking at is we know it's really important for government operations and for our community for things to reopen. It's still too early to tell, but we're always looking at the numbers, looking at the facts, and taking those things into consideration.
What would you have to say for folks who are maybe looking at this and, you know, their anxiety levels are high, their stress levels are high, especially if they have not been able to evacuate for whatever reason?
All right, so for my media partners, this might just bear with me. I would highly advise that you stay tuned to media outlets, but also take a moment to step away mentally. All right, we're going to be in this for a while. We're going to be in this situation for a while. Taking care of yourself so you can best take care of those around you. You know, comfort items are extremely important. This is going to be an experience for everyone. I would say while you still have cell service, while you still have phone service, call your friends, call your families, and again, always check on your neighbors. We're in this together. We're in this together.
And then conversely, what do you say to people who are not heeding these warnings, might still be out there in this storm right now?
We have a very smart community. So I would say for those individuals that have not yet heeded those warnings, that you need to make provisions. You need to shelter in place. You need to stay safe. You need to take the appropriate action. When we send out these alerts, take them seriously. This is a matter of life or death. Hurricane Ian is nothing to laugh at. All right, so it's important for everyone to follow the notifications, take it very seriously, and to start those processes to shelter in place. I'll take 2 more questions.
What is the current estimation on how long these 45-plus mile-an-hour winds are going to last?
It depends. As you guys are watching the weather reports, just like we are, we're getting reports in from the National Weather Service. Ian is a slow-moving storm, so it's a storm. So we're monitoring the weather and the time frame for how long it's going to pass. It's going to be a while.
And you mentioned sending out an alert about State Road 681. Can you elaborate on what you meant by that?
So we're seeing the sustained winds right now, and that we just put out for the iPods that you guys got, that emergency notification. 681, that notification is getting ready to go out. What we're looking at is a wave of the sustained 45-mile-an-hour winds. Our Sarasota County emergency operations are dedicated to helping our community members as long as they can, while still remaining safe themselves. So why we're putting out multiple alerts is because that wave of the winds, that sustainment, is moving northward through the county. We want to make sure that our community members know that as long as we can, we're there to support them. So you're going to get multiple reports that says we can no longer go from this point. We can no longer go from this point. Because our team members, as long as they can go out there and help our community, they will. Annie, yes.
How does it work if there's an alert issued in the middle of a call? If someone's out there almost at a place, would they continue or would they go back?
They'll do the best they can to complete the calls that they're on and then go back. All right, last question.
As far as pets are concerned, they are welcome at shelters?
All of our evacuation centers are pet friendly, and let me look at, I think I just got a recent report. We have about 560 pets across our evacuation centers. All right.
Florida Highway Patrol would like to remind people just stay off the interstate, please. They can't respond to traffic accidents.
All right. So from our partners, we're being asked to share with you and for you to share with your viewers to stay off the interstate. Now is not the time to go driving around anywhere. You've heard it from here. You've heard it from our media partners. Shelter in place. All right. Any other questions? All right, as always, we have our team members up here in the second floor of our Emergency Operations Center, our 311 center. They're answering your calls. They're going to be there for 24 hours a day. If you have any questions, please call them. Follow us on social media at SRQ County Gov. Follow our media partners. And also continue to go to scgov.net for the latest updates and helpful information. Thank you and stay safe.
Oh, yeah, that was just the Sarasota County Emergency Operations Center going over some of the information about what's happening right now. To recap for those who are just coming into this, their emergency services have been suspended. That means first responders no longer on the road in Sarasota County. That's also the case in Manatee and Charlotte County. So continue that trend as those winds getting way too high for police to be out there.
Sure, it certainly is, and making for a volatile situation here in Sarasota County. As you just heard, you've heard the advice from our Emergency Operations Center. We are, following them as they have said. Obviously, we are pulling everyone off the roads because winds have sustained over 45 miles per hour there. And I think it's also a good time now to remind our viewers that if you are sheltering in place as you should be, there are some things that you should follow. So with that, that means no small interior room with no windows. You don't want to be close to a window just because you're sitting in your family room, watching us as we're providing you this broadcast. You want to be kind of close away from that if it is possible. Obviously, lock all your windows, lock all your doors. And something I thought was interesting, it is pretty humid out there, pretty warm today, but you do want to turn off your fans and AC units. That was another one that I thought was pretty interesting information from Emergency Operations Center, some advice there. Also, it goes without saying, your pets should be inside. You want to make sure that your bathtub has plenty of water. If your water hasn't been shut off yet, obviously in Siesta Key and parts that way to the barrier island, that water has been shut off for several hours by now.
Yes.
But of course, if your water has not been shut off, take advantage of that now. Fill up that tub with water because you're going to need it to flush and that sort of thing. And it looks like we've got some video, Shane. Let's see what's going on there.
All right, let's check that out. We're looking at downtown Sarasota. You can see a sculpture here being blown around, barely being held together. Look at this. You've probably seen this before at plenty of your trips downtown. I'm familiar with this one. Not too far away. It's right by Main Street. You can see that thing is just getting absolutely torn apart by those winds. Now, we've been looking at Sarasota a few times throughout the day. We saw earlier today, rooftops were getting battered around by this so badly. You can see, look, as we turn around, you can see there's some other buildings around downtown, and there's those trees just getting blown apart. Not blown apart, but at least getting thrashed pretty badly. You can see at least the leaves on the ground. I don't see any branches at this point, but you can expect these to get worse as these winds keep getting stronger and stronger, because we are still, keep in mind, we're only about halfway towards the strongest kind of winds we could be seeing in this area. So as bad as it is right now, it is going to get a lot worse in the coming hours as this day drags on. That's why it's so important for everyone to be inside. Don't be like these people who right now are on the roads. That is not a smart decision. You want to be inside at this point. Now, fortunately, a lot of people are making that decision. Like they mentioned in that Sarasota County meeting, a lot more people are taking them up on the shelters over these past few hours. Our James Hill gave us these numbers showing at first they had about 2,600 people in the shelters, and now, Kelsey, up to 4,200. So an extra 1,600 people on the shelters over the past couple of hours. So a lot more people seeing that this is a big problem, taking it seriously, which is exactly what they need to do, and get inside. Really, that's plain and simple. Stay inside, stay safe. Obviously, have that backup. Have your phones charged. If you are using a power generator, make sure you're doing that correctly. You want to make sure your generator is outside. You don't want to breathe in any exhaust from those power generators. And we are checking back in with First Alert meteorologist John Scalzi. John, you have an update for us.
Yeah, just moments ago, the 1 o'clock update, the intermediate advisory for Hurricane Ian came in. Not much change. Still holding 155-mile-an-hour winds being reported, and the central pressure is still low at 937. A Category 4 storm crawling to the north-northeast at about 10 miles per hour. It's not technically made landfall yet because the center of circulation has not moved over any location, but the eye wall is over land, and it's producing some very strong wind speeds from Sanibel through Gasparilla into areas, even South Venice, seeing some very strong winds. It'll continue to moving north, and as it moves over land by, say 8 p.m. today, we'll start to see it degrade to maybe a Category 3 storm. They're now holding it as a Category 3 storm as it moves through areas of Hardy, DeSoto, maybe even some parts of inland areas of Manatee County, on its way off to the north and to the east. This is a storm system that's spreading its wind field from south to north across areas of southern Suncoast at this moment, with wind speeds up to 100 miles per hour. Back to you guys.
The state of Florida, so central and northeast Florida, will also feel impacts. Now, while most people in the evacuations did leave, there were some that chose to stay. I was speaking with the sheriff down in Charlotte County, and while most people did leave, they had a small number of people that just wanted to hunker down. And at the end of the day, that's a decision they made, knowing that they had the ability to evacuate and knowing what the stakes were. Nevertheless, life safety operations will commence as soon as it's safe, to be able to identify people who may be in harm's way and who are in need of assistance. And Kevin will say, I'll say a little bit about that, but Kevin will say more. We'll also hear from FWC about their efforts that they have staged and ready to go. If you are still in Southwest Florida, just please stay inside until the storm passes. It may appear to be calm at some point. You may just be in the eye of the storm, and the backside of that will get very, very nasty. The storm is expected to move across central Florida and exit Daytona Beach sometime on Thursday. We've already seen around the state tornado warnings issued far from where the hurricane is entering in Southwest Florida, and those warnings will likely to continue until this finally leaves our state. So even if you're not in the direct path of the storm, you need to take all tornado warnings seriously, and you need to take appropriate precautions if that is happening in your area. The Florida Department of Transportation has just announced that Fort Drum, Canoe Creek, and Turkey Lake service plazas on Florida Turnpike are now closed. Obviously, they will try to get those open as soon as they can. We have 200,000 power outages reported throughout the state of Florida, but outside of Southwest Florida, crews are working to quickly restore power. Of course, 200,000 is a drop in the bucket for what's going to happen over the next 24 to 48 hours. There's going to be widespread power outages, particularly in Southwest Florida. We have over 100 portable cell towers ready to be deployed into the area once it is safe to enter. Once the storm is passed and it is safe to go outside, you still need to be cautious. Avoid down power lines, standing water. Stay clear of downed trees, and don't drive in standing water. And please, if you're going to use a generator for your home, do not allow that to be inside. The exhaust needs to be outdoors. Stay out of the way of emergency crews, out of flood waters, and away from all down power lines. Stay off the roads. There's no need to rush back. You're going to have a massive surge of people that are going to be going in to provide, of course, life safety assistance for those who may have stayed in some of the more hazardous areas. You're also going to have power workers going in. We were just in Lake City. I was thinking we had all these power workers, these line workers from all these different states. I saw them from Texas, Louisiana, all these different places staged. We have a massive, massive mobilization. Their job is to get in there and help to restore services. You're also going to have folks bringing in things like food and water. So there's no need to rush back in. There's going to be a lot going on in the immediate aftermath, and a lot of people's safety depends on that. If you're on the roads, you're putting yourself in danger and limiting the ability of emergency crews to restore power and clean debris. Now, we don't know how much debris is going to be, but there's going to be debris, and that's going to make it very difficult to navigate some of these roads. That's why FDOT's immediate mission is to clear the roadways so that people are able to go in and access that to be able to help deliver services for people. In 2019, we were projected to be hit by Hurricane Dorian, which was a Category 5 storm. Fortunately, at the last minute, it took a northward turn and missed the coast, but we did have a really massive mobilization. This mobilization's exceeded that. This is a really, really significant effort, county level, state level, federal support. It's really been impressive to see. Director Guthrie has asked for additional airlift, hoist, and high water vehicles from DOD in coordination with FEMA. The Secretary of Defense has approved Florida's request for dual status of our National Guard forces under Title 10 to provide additional forces, which we very much appreciate. We will also be submitting momentarily a major disaster declaration for all 67 counties, and will request that the federal government reimburse 100% of the upfront costs for the first 60 days to ensure that we can quickly recover and move forward into the response and recovery part. And if you think about this storm, we had storms that have been as strong as this hit Florida? Michael, Hurricane Andrew, Labor Day hurricane many, many decades ago. Yes, Have we had big storms that left a lot of water and flooding? We had Irma recently. This is really bringing both to the table. I mean, you're going to have massive amount of power hitting that coastline with really, really strong winds. That is going to do a lot of wind damage, but you also have the storm is so massive, and people are kind of comparing this to the track that Charlie took in 2004, because Charlie was like this, was expected to hit Tampa Bay. It turned and ended up hitting Southwest Florida. Charlie was strong, but it was a fraction of the size of what we're dealing with here with Hurricane Ian. So the effects of this are going to be broad, and we appreciate the Biden administration's consideration for the people of Florida during this time of need. When I was in Lake City, you had massive numbers of linemen, but you have those staged all over the state. There's now over 42,000 linemen and other personnel ready to restore power in 30 different areas across the state. And those linemen and other associated personnel hail from, of course, many from Florida, but from 27 different states. Of course, our Department of Transportation does have 1,200 personnel on standby to perform cut and toss operations, understanding how important it is to get those roadways clear as soon as possible. Supplies will be brought in by plane, boat, and by high water vehicle. Airports in Southwest Florida do have teams behind, and they are going to work to clear those runways as soon as the storm has passed. We appreciate the Florida National Guard's really impressive mobilization of over 5,000 folks, as well as 2,000 additional guardsmen from other states. They have 9 Chinook helicopters ready to go, and additional 22 helicopters will be coming in after landfall that will be here within the next 24 hours. Kevin will talk a little bit more about this, but we have the 5 urban search and rescue teams. You'll hear from FWC about what they're doing, high water vehicles from Florida Highway Patrol, and of course our Coast Guard partners. There is going to be a massive effort as soon as it passes Southwest Florida to be able to get out, recon the area, and identify areas where there may be a need of rescue services. And some of these counties obviously know where residents decided to hunker down in, so they're going to be looking there first. But this is going to be really, really important to be able to get, I think in Hurricane Michael, I mean, it took a few days to be able to get into Mexico Beach. We have the air assets to be able to recon and know where the response efforts need to go. And so in total, we have nearly 250 aircraft, more than 1,600 high water vehicles, and more than 300 boats of all drafts and sizes, including 250 already in the major impacted areas and nearly 50 that are staged and ready to come in as needed. These include smaller rescue orients that will be delivering supplies by water if need be. I want to thank the 26 states that have sent us support, including Tennessee, Virginia, Montana, New York, Colorado, Indiana, New Jersey, and Georgia. I just spoke with Kay Ivey from Alabama, and she's supporting sending some Black Hawk helicopters down to help. Governor Bill Lee in Tennessee fast-tracked a request that we had from Tennessee. We appreciate that. I was also just able to speak with John Bell Edwards from Louisiana. They've helped us, but he said, hey, we've got a lot of experience in hurricanes recently, so these guys are good. Ask us. We want to send more. And so we really appreciate that consideration. And if we need that, we certainly will do that. We also understand that people that are displaced are going to need assistance. So the Department of Economic Opportunity has already deployed funding and guidance through community action agencies to help Floridians in need of short-term support, like utilities, hotel bills, and transportation, if they have been displaced by the storm. Please continue to monitor local reports, weather reports. Be very cautious about going out into hazardous conditions. And then once the storm passes your area, just make sure that you're very careful, because there's going to be a lot of things, a lot of hazards that are going to be down on the ground. I know there's a lot of people that have reached out. First of all, I want to say thanks. A lot of people have offered thoughts and prayers for the folks that are in the eye of this storm, and that means a lot to us. There's also people that want to be able to do their part, and so I've directed Volunteer Florida to activate the Florida Disaster Fund, where people can donate. It's much better to donate financially rather than sending items. We have everything we need in terms of the immediate response needs, but there will be thousands of Floridians who will need help rebuilding, and to contribute to the Disaster Fund, fund, you can visit www.floridadisasterfund.org or text disaster to 20222. Again, that's text disaster to 20222. For those who want to come volunteer, we have an official volunteer portal at Volunteer Florida, and that's at www.volunteerflorida.org, www.volunteerflorida.org, and you can look to see of the volunteer opportunities. This is going to be a rough patch here for the rest of today and into tomorrow, but we understand how significant this storm is. Yes, there'll be an immediate response. Yes, there'll be things that happen with recovery. Eventually, there won't be much media attention on this as the weeks and months go on, but we understand a storm of this magnitude is going to require an effort over an extended period of time. Those are good folks down in Southwest Florida. They've got really great, thriving communities. This is not anything anyone wants to deal with. It's not something we certainly ask for, but we're going to step up. We're going to be there for folks, and we're going to make sure that folks get back on their feet, and Southwest Florida comes back better than ever. Okay, Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor. As the governor has said, Hurricane Ian is approaching landfall as a Category 4 storm with winds of 155 miles per hour in Lee and Charlotte counties. At this time, the division has received nearly 1,000 resource requests from our impacted local partners, and 864 of those are either in process or completed. We are working as quickly as we can to address the needs of those impacted areas. This morning, I talked with each and every local emergency manager in the direct path of the storm. If you are sheltering in place in the path of the storm, we're asking you to now please visit floridadisaster.org/info and fill out our shelter in place survey. Again, that is floridadisaster.org/info to fill out our shelter in place survey. The shelter-in-place survey is designed to provide critical information to first responders about the demographics of your household so that they can aid your families as soon as possible. This is primarily for those who did not evacuate, so that we know where you're at. This is not a substitute for 911. If you have an immediate need and you need first responder assistance, you need to dial 911. Please understand that those 911 services may not be able to come to you right now, but again, if you need emergency services, dial 911. Even if it is calm outside, you may be in the eye of the storm. I encourage our individuals near Sanibel, near that Fort Myers area, as the eye wall starts to come on shore, if everything stops, the storm is not over. If you can hear us, if you can see us on your TV, you're most likely to have bright, sunshiny area here very soon. You are in the eye of the storm. Stay inside. Stay indoors. Do not go outside. You do not know when that eye wall will collapse. So please stay safe. Avoid down power lines and down trees and standing water when it is over. Use extreme caution. If you see any type of line, do not cut them. Do not cut fiber optic lines. Fiber optics are the backbone of our communication system that allows us to have connectivity for your cellular devices on wireless networks. It provides access to the internet. It provides access to social media. Please do not cut fiber optic lines. To the communities beginning to experience these devastating impacts of Hurricane Ian, know that the state of Florida is standing with you. We have plenty of resources to respond to your need. We have thousands of boats on the ground. We have thousands of boots on the ground. We're ready to assist you. We will make sure that all available resources are used to help you through this difficult time. Please do everything you can right now to stay safe. Thank you, Governor, very much for the opportunity to be here and be your director.
Thank you. All right, Colonel Roger Young, Director of the Division of Law Enforcement, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate it. Thank you, Governor, and thank you, Director, for your leadership and support as always, but especially during these trying times. So on behalf of the FWC, I'm Colonel Roger Young, and know that the men and women of the FWC send our prayers and support to all those in the path of the storm at this time. But also know that the FWC officers across the state are prepared, trained, and ready for a full response to this storm. We have 100 officers outside of the affected area ready to respond with high water vehicles and specialized equipment and vessels. We also have 250 vessels staged already inside the affected area that will be ready and utilized for response to this storm. So just know that we appreciate all the support that we're getting, but officers will be ready to respond in this time. Just want to say thanks to everyone, and the FWC officers will be ready for response. Thank you.
Okay, Agency for Healthcare Administration, we have our Secretary, Simone Marsteller.
Governor, thank you very much for your leadership. Director Guthrie, you as well. Good afternoon. As the eye of Hurricane Ian makes landfall, all healthcare facilities have made the necessary preparations and stand ready for Ian's impact. Since the beginning of the emergency, our agency has been focused on the safety and well-being of residents and patients and hospitals and long-term care facilities. We've activated the health facility reporting system, and we've requested and still do request that all healthcare facilities continue to report their census, their available beds, their evacuation status, and their generator status information. And that includes even facilities that might be outside of the impacted areas, because we need to be sure that we can provide the necessary resources to assist everyone when the time comes for response and recovery. As of today, ACA's teams have coordinated with our licensed healthcare facilities in evacuating more than 7,000 patients and residents from 150 facilities. Additionally, our team has activated the Emergency Patient Lookup System, or E+. This system allows special needs shelters in impacted areas to retrieve patient medical records and help medical providers and emergency response personnel to locate missing or displaced persons after the storm. We also have nearly 400 ambulances, paratransit buses, and support vehicles standing by to respond to the areas of impact. In addition to ACA's team's regular visits to all of our licensed healthcare facilities, we have completed more than 343 additional on-site visits to our nursing homes and assisted living facilities within the cone of expectance to verify generator compliance in response to Hurricane Ian. Today, and I know you've heard the governor say this over the last few days, but 100% of our operating long-term care facilities have generators on site. We've also worked very closely with our partners at the Florida Hospital Association, the Florida Healthcare Association and Leading Age, Florida Senior Living, and the Florida Assisted Living Associations. And we've activated, working with them, the Patient Movement Mission. We know that facilities are currently bracing for impact as Hurricane Ian is anticipated to make landfall here shortly. Following the storm, the Agency for Healthcare Administration stands ready to immediately deploy our surveyors for on-site visits to the impacted facilities. During these visits, we will ensure that each facility is maintaining an appropriate temperature for residents and that all other conditions in those facilities are safe for residents. If you are a patient or resident or family member of someone in one of our long-term care facilities or any other healthcare facility, and you experience any issues during the storm that are related to that facility or your stay there or the service, please know that you can lodge a complaint with the Agency for Healthcare Administration on our website, and that's ahca.myflorida.com. using our online complaint portal. If you are a licensed healthcare provider and experience any issues during the storm, Please, of course, notify your local emergency manager, but also please report through our health facility reporting system immediately so that we know exactly what your status is and what we need to do to provide you the resources and help that you need. Moving forward, the agency will continue to require these kinds of status reports for power outages, bed availability, and other needs. This has truly been a collaborative effort, and I and my team appreciate all of the work that our agency partners have been putting in. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. So as we see power outages accumulate over the next day, 2 days, the crews that are assembled, massive numbers of people, one of the first orders of business, restore power, fuel, all the essentials. Not every power outage is going to be created equal across the state over the next 2 days. When you have a storm coming in at 155 miles an hour, that's not just going to knock down a few power lines. Yeah, it's going to do that, but it also has the potential to really uproot a lot of the infrastructure that makes people connected and that is used to deliver power to people. And so that will just require a reconstruction of that. And that's something that can be done, but it's not as easy as just simply hooking up a down power line back into place. And so as you get more severe wind impacts, more powerful storm, the storm surge, that's where you're in jeopardy of seeing a lot of that infrastructure disrupted in a way that will require more than just simply rehooking it. It's also the case that you may have homes and or businesses that are not going to be able to take the power because of changes to what's happened to their structures. So just keep that in mind. The folks that are staged are mindful of those different things. They want to get in as soon as possible, assess the damage, and help do the restoration efforts. Some of that may just be typical repair, but some of it may be more in the line of reconstruction. So just be prepared for that. I mean, we've been saying that there was going to be, significant power outages with a storm of this magnitude. That's just the reality. So it's going to pass today from Southwest Florida. As soon as it's safe to go in, there's going to be people. I've already talked to a lot of the locals. They know where they need to look to see the damage assessments, to look to see where people may be in harm's way. Obviously, folks at the state level are going to be doing the same thing, and it's important. And we want to make sure, obviously, save people that may need to be rescued, but then get these services started again because we need to get people back on their feet as soon as possible. Okay, with that, I'll take some questions.
You mentioned that there were some people that have chosen not to stay that lived in that were staying in evacuation areas. Do you have any sense
That chose to stay, you mean?
That chose to stay even though they're in evacuation areas? Do you have any sense as to how many people that is? I know you're doing a survey.
Well, that's voluntary in terms of who wants to participate in that. I just spoke with the Charlotte County Sheriff, which is, of course, going to be probably ground zero for this landfall. And it's their view that the vast majority of people in that Zone A did, in fact, evacuate. Now, they have an island community where they had 31 people that were told, were offered, the transit, and they just said that they wanted to stay and shelter in place. And so I know a lot of those barrier island communities, the counties discontinued services, so they were incentivized to get in maybe a more comfortable environment. But some of those people just made that decision to stay, and they, the local officials were not going to grab them by the shirt collar and drag them out of their own house. And so they did that. And look, we've been saying that if you're in an evacuation zone, once that order is made, you're risking potentially your life by staying, and people did that. Nevertheless, as much as you may disagree with that decision, if there's people in harm's way when this storm passes that need help, we're going to be out there helping folks. I mean, that's just the way we're going to do it. And I know that the folks down there in Charlotte and the surrounding counties feel the same way. And there's a lot of resources that have been brought to bear to do just that. Yep, go ahead.
At this point, Governor, have you heard anything about, and I know it's early, so it's probably too soon to tell, but, fatalities, any serious injuries, anything like that associated with this one?
Kevin, I have not gotten a report on that yet.
We did have 2 people transported on the tours last night. Question for Secretary Marsteller. Of those 150 facilities, how many of were hospitals, and do you have a sense of how many patients within those hospitals that would encompass?
The most recent information that I have, 15 hospitals evacuated, and that amounts to roughly 350 patients. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Of course, you guys have been following the track. I mean, it was going to be maybe North Florida, then the Tampa. People were talking about one of the worst case scenarios. Of course, it's gone down. My view on that is wherever it hits, if you're in that community, it's probably worst case scenario for you. So I don't necessarily use those. But when it was the Tampa, I spoke with the CEO of Tampa General, and they have a fortification system of their hospital that can withstand like 10, 15 feet of storm surge. And so they do that so that they can keep the patients there, because if you don't have that and you're in a low-lying area, you got to do the evacuations. A number of the hospital systems have done that, who are in those low-lying areas. I think particularly in the Tampa area, I know we had a lot of special needs evacuations, as we should have. I mean, you got to take the information that you have, and they're going to feel effects from this. But my hope is that those patients are going to be able to be brought back as soon as that storm is passed. And I don't anticipate major structural damage. Would be my hope in some of those areas.
How many individual...
I probably do.
Sorry, Marilyn. You don't have a take on evacuations for Cape Coral. Just looked on. If you look at the storm surge diagrams that NWS has, it looks like there's a lot of the storm surges in that area. Sanibel and Captiva are getting hammered right now. I'm just wondering how evacuation efforts went there as they embraced the eye.
Again, all of those individuals were under evacuation orders. We don't actually have the numbers of what the percent was that evacuated versus those that didn't. I would imagine, since most of that same area went through Charlie, they probably evacuated. Again, Charlie was a fraction of the size of this particular storm, but I would imagine that most people that have lived through that, they went ahead and evacuated.
I think another issue is just, there were people that evacuated Tampa Bay to Fort Myers because you see the different weather tracks, and it was thought that it would hit Tampa, maybe go up the coast, and that was not that long ago. That was, 36, 48 hours ago. You go back another 12, 24 hours from that, it was going to hit Taylor County. And so I think that some of the folks in Southwest Florida, because so much focus was on Tampa, then when it says, actually it may be coming here, I do think some heeded the warnings, but I think it's because the forecast can kind of be all over the map, that sometimes people say, well, you said it was there, then you said it was there. I think in the future, we tried to stress the uncertainty, but when you have a model taking it to Louisiana and another model taking it to Sarasota, and then you just kind of meet, it's not probably the ideal situation. Now that we're close, once you're within 72, certainly 48, those are very accurate forecasts. But before that, there's just so much uncertainty. But I think sometimes people think, well, you said it was going to be here, and then now you're saying it's going to be here. So we'll see how it goes. I know the folks in Lee County, once that forecast changed, I know they acted very quickly, as they should have. And I know that they provided people with an ample opportunity to be able to evacuate. I do think some heeded it, some did not and chose to hunker down. And hopefully, the people that made that choice, that it works out favorably for them.
Issues are going to be specifically for the Tampa Bay area when it comes to rescue efforts from the state? What do you think the biggest issues?
In the Tampa Bay area for rescue? Well, obviously we have enough assets and we understand that this is a big impact, that the rescue efforts are not going to be limited to one municipality or one county. You're going to potentially have more. My hope is that you're not going to need massive rescue efforts the further away you are from the storm. I also have a huge amount of confidence in the folks in the Tampa Bay area. You look at the sheriff's departments, these are very first-rate operations. They have excellent ability to respond to that. Kevin will be here. Our folks will be here if needed. But our sense is that the further away from the storm, probably the local responders are going to be able to handle that. Here in Southwest Florida, you're going to have all those local responders out, but then you're also going to have all this support, Coast Guard, FWC. You're going to have National Guard. This is a really, really concerted effort, and that's just the reality when you have such a significant impacted spot. So hopefully they don't need us to fleet resources up. We will do it if there is really significant. But you look at the guys they got up there, Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, Manatee. Those are really, really professional operations. Did you want Shimon, you said? I did.
Okay.
Just one follow-up question. You mentioned that there were 150 facilities with evacuated patients, and 15 of them are hospitals. How many nursing homes patients were involved in? And there's always the issue of transfer trauma in transfer of an evacuation. How many? What are you doing to kind of anticipate that trauma on those individuals?
Well, to answer your how many question first, nursing homes that have been evacuated, at least, again, most recent information I have, 40, ALFs 91, the number of nursing home residents 3,508, number of ALF residents 3,012, and that's the most recent information I have as of probably 10 o'clock or so this morning, remembering that the facilities are self-reporting into our health facility reporting system. Now, to answer your other question, the Agency for Healthcare Administration has many partners involved in the effort to move patients when they need to be moved. Not only do the facility staff have a role to play, but all of the associations that I mentioned earlier, right? So the Hospital Association, Healthcare Association, Leading Age, all of those individuals are directly, they directly work with their member facilities, so nursing homes and ALFs. So it's a coordinated effort to make sure that the individuals can be placed in the right location for them, keeping in mind their health needs. Our health facility reporting system is also used to find where there are vacancies in other facilities. Many of these nursing homes in particular, have sister facilities elsewhere in the state. So it makes that kind of transfer a lot easier and less stressful on the individuals who have to change their environment.
So we'll have another update in another few hours. I would just say it seems like over the last 12 to 24 hours, every time you look at this storm, it's just been bad news. It gets stronger, it gets larger, and we really appreciate people's concern for Florida. We do appreciate the prayers. I'm going to be saying prayers that the folks there are able to get through this as best as humanly possible. This is a really, really significant storm. It will be one of the storms people always remember when they think about Southwest Florida, probably be the big one that they always remember. And if you know anything about our state, you go to Panama City, that Michael is just part of the DNA of the community. Homestead, Hurricane Andrew is just part of the DNA of the community. This Ian is going to rank up there with that. So we need the thoughts and prayers over the near term, and then there's going to be a huge effort on the back end to help people and to get the communities back on their feet. Thank you.